we'll get everything. Now, leave encashment, gratuity, and along with pension, our future is
Yes,
secure.
employees' real benefit lies in LIC pension and group scheme.
What if you were a major transit system facing cyber attacks? So you partner with IBM to keep your data, network, and apps protected. Now you can tackle threats without coming to a halt. Let's create cybersecurity that keeps your business on track. IBM, let's create.
It's the electric SUV with the fastest acceleration in India. It's the most spacious in the C segment, and it can be yours now. Starts at rupees 15.99 lakhs. Bookings open on 26th January 2023.
Axis Mutual Fund presents Axis Business Cycles Fund NFO, an opportunity for you to be a part of India's growth story. NFO opens February 2nd. Log on to axismf.com or speak to your mutual fund distributor or registered investment advisor today. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
अम्यूजमेंट पार्क तो बंद है.
The all-new Slavia.
घर में फैमिली की डिमांड्स और ऑफिस में काम की इन्वेस्टमेंट करने के लिए टाइम कहाँ मिलता है क्योंकि मेरे पीछे एसएमसी है. एसएमसी, मनी वाइज बी वाइज.
Investment in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.
There is a way to open a world of opportunities with the most reputed companies of the world. The way 96% of our students secured placement last year, with top ranks and coveted accreditations to show for them. The MBA programs at the Amrita School of Business. Admissions have opened. Apply now.
When it comes to making your drive electric, never settle for the ordinary. Go EV with India's #1 EV, Nexon EV. Proven and trusted by over 40,000 customers. Feature loaded and safe, offering a premium driving experience. Now with enhanced range and an exciting new price. Nexon EV. Drive what drove India electric.
This is TV18 and you're watching
Well, ultimately, a budget is all about taxes, and we have an excellent tax panel here with Mr. Dinesh Kannabad, Mr. Sudhir Kapadia, and Rajiv Dimri, and our colleague Surabhi, who has done a hell of a lot of work on what is expected on the tax front, is also with us. Take it away, Surabhi.
Lata, thank you so much for that, and good morning to everybody. Good morning to the panel. Yes, I think the expectations are running higher than usual this year, just because the middle class has been saying the corporates got their share. There was PLI for manufacturing and other incentives for sectors. What is there for us? And I think that's why the middle class is really holding their breath this time around. But let me straight away throw it to the panel, Mr. Kannabad, and why not?
Check
right? When was the last time, I don't remember in recent memory, where the consensus is this government will exceed its tax collection targets on direct tax. GST numbers have been fabulous.
Check one.
Why not go ahead and
check one.
To the middle class?
Lower bracket, will it be raised?
Yeah.
Will the ceiling be raised?
So, the three parts to that question, Surabhi and Lata. First is that you are looking at exemption limit. And I know that the official BJP version is that don't increase the threshold limit, because if you do that, people don't file their returns, they go out of the tax net, and it is better to monitor. But I do think there is a need to relook at and we need to just recognize that's one part. Second is the middle level. So can we have a 15% bracket somewhere between 10 and 20? And can there be that limit from 7.5 to whatever, which is at a lower rate and which will again leave some more disposable income in the hands of the middle class? One thing which we tend to forget, and there is, I don't see a reason why we should forget, that is the top class, because we have maximum marginal rate for individuals going right up to 42%. There was this introduction of a surcharge, and I have gone hoarse sort of saying that surcharge cannot be in perpetuity. It was for a particular purpose. We have buoyancy in tax collection. why should it not be that the maximum marginal rate should be at 35%, which is, we have been competitive on the corporate side. I cannot see any valid and good reason why we should not be equally competitive on the individual side. And I would really wish that the surcharge is reduced and we get the maximum marginal rate tax down, because beyond a particular threshold, if we exceed, then there is a tendency to say, can we do something to not pay taxes? We would rather have 35% rate of tax, and we'll see actually a buoyancy in collection.
You know, I remember that budget. We were all sitting here together, Mr. Kanabar, when that surcharge 42% hit us. I think there were a couple of other corporate voices as well, and you'd almost see steam coming out of their ears, you know, when this level, I mean, of this disbelief that the market had. But let me get Sudhir Kapadia's view into the picture as well. Mr. Kapadia, good morning. Your thoughts, A, will there be any tinkering as far as the tax slab is concerned for the middle class? And do you think it would mean much, or is it just for face value, given that we have an election upon us?
I think I would first like to react to the last comment of Dinesh. I do have a difference of view there, for the simple reason that a race to the bottom on personal income tax, especially for higher earners, will not help India. Who will you compete with? I mean, UAE is 0%, for example. So I think that battle is a very different battle and a different discussion. And I think there are many non-fiscal considerations also when people look at tax arbitrage. So I agree that people are mobile and capital is mobile. I think India can do a lot as far as capital is concerned to attract more capital. Therefore, there is greater expectation that something better can be done on capital gains tax, for instance. In an election year especially, the same point I would turn it around and say, for the government to actually reduce the rates for the highest tax bracket, I don't think is even gives any political capital. Coming to the lower rates, I completely agree, and we discussed that yesterday, Lata, as well, that in fact we have suggested, we have given a very specific recommendation to the government to go with the lower rates already prescribed in the alternative tax system, the minimum tax. Give us some deductions which are necessary for education and for health. And that is a sacrifice in revenue. I just gave a number of 10,000 crores as just, I don't have the basis. But that much I think the government can afford, given also what the economic survey says, given the tax buoyancy which Mr. Bajaj just earlier on the show also spoke about, and the fact that government has been able to over-deliver on tax revenue. So yes, some relief on personal income tax at the lower levels, more as a relief for against inflation. As Mr. Bajaj said, it may or may not boost consumption. That's factual and more analysis is required.
Right,
but I don't think at a higher rates there is any scope.
Mr. Kapadia, sorry, two things you said. You said on the higher tax-paying brackets, race to the bottom not advised, and then you said capital gains maybe something can be done, harmonization, etc. Is that what you said?
Because on capital gains, so there are two things, right? Individuals are mobile and capital is mobile. I'm trying to say that as a policy, India can still do a lot on making capital stay in India and attract more capital. Because if you see the thrust of the government, even through the COVID,
no, Mr. Kapadi, that is absolutely
more
fine.
on the supply side.
That is absolutely fine. All I'm saying is, are you proposing capital changes to the capital gains tax regime?
Yes. So we have suggested that two things we have suggested. One is that we should harmonize the holding period for all assets, movable assets, as it is in most countries, and the fact that unlisted shares, for example, you still need to hold for 2 years. We need to boost startups more. There is no reason why unlisted holding period should be 2 years. That can easily be made 1 year. It will not result in significant revenue loss, but it will help in greater velocity of investment. So I think rationalization of holding period certainly is something which can be expected.
Yeah, that I think would make matters simpler just from a filing and compliance point of view as well, just an understanding point of view for investors. Rajiv, I just want to dial back to the middle class and the whole chat about personal income tax for a second. How does this play out? Because on one hand, this is a government that has been talking about lower tax rates, doing away with deductions, streamlining the regime so that people really pay up and it becomes simpler. But that lower tax rate regime, zero deductions, didn't quite work. On the other hand, there's a clamor for more on ATC, more on ATD, more on...
A very good morning to all. Today we have a great session of budget, which is the main driver of the whole year, how the government is going to provide the benefits, incentives, and provisions for so many sectors of the economy. So, economic survey produced by the government yesterday depicts a very, very promising picture. Like we are a resilient economy, and we are the fastest moving economy in the world economic system, and our demand is sound, and government capex is happening. Government is spending a lot to support the economy at this juncture. So government capital expenditure has become the main growth driver of the economy in recent years, which is also indicating that the private investments will also happen, and there is an uptick in the private investments also. And the great thing is that the credit growth is also happening. Credit growth for the MSME sector is now 30% during the first 8-9 months of the current financial year. So these are the 5 major findings of the economic survey, that we are moving ahead. We are moving ahead with a great growth trajectory, with a great strength of the economy. And there are worries that our exports will slow in the coming times because of the slowdown in the advanced economies. But that has also to be met through the domestic demand. That is the indication of the economic survey, that the worries are now diminishing as our demand is becoming more robust, and we have capability to support our growth at 6.5 or 7% with the support of the domestic demand. So at this backdrop, we are expecting a great budget, welfare-inducing budget, investments attracting budget, and budget for the consumption, because now consumption has become a major growth driver of the economy, and demand should continue with the great handholding of the government. So we have organized this discussion on the pre-budget expectations, viewpoints of our leaders, our president, our vice president, our senior vice president, our secretary general, and our esteemed guest, Shri Sanjay Chadha ji. Give a great applause to Shri Sanjay Chadha ji, as he served Government of India for many years with so many reforms for the FTA, and I cordially invite him on the dais to join us at this stage. I invite our President Shri Saket Dalmia ji to join the dais, and our Vice President Shri Hemant Jain ji, and our Secretary General Shri Saurabh Sanyal ji. We have 2 guests who will be joining from, one from US, Dr. Ajay Chhibber, renowned economist, and Dr. Ram Singh, he is head of the Policy Advocacy, Delhi School of Economics. They will be joining through virtual mode. I request our President Shri Saket Dalmia ji to present a plan to Shri Sanjay Chadha ji. And we are happy that Dr. Manoj Pant has also joined us. He is chair of the Foreign Trade and Investment Committee and former Dean of Indian Institute of Foreign Trade. Thank you, President Shri Saket Dalmia ji, and we welcome our former presidents, Shri K.S. Mehta ji, Shri Salil Bhandari ji, Shri Anil Khaitan ji, Shri Gopal Jivrajka ji, who has spared their valuable time to join us today in this very prestigious program of the PhD Chamber, which is a great program for the year and which drives the budgetary requirements of the economy. And because 11 o'clock, Madam Nirmala Sitharaman will start her speech. So now we have to start our panel discussion with our expectations from the budget. And firstly, I would request our President Shri Saket Dalmia ji to provide his viewpoint what is his expectation from the budget, not his expectation, but the expectations of our industry body, PhD chamber, from the forthcoming budget. Shri Saket Dalmia ji, please.
Thank you, Sharma ji. I think we have such eminent people on the panel. It'll be worthwhile for them to first give us a perspective. Pansab, now we are, I think, one very interesting aspect we are all discussing is what is going to happen to India's exports. And one, we always we rely on saying that Europe is slowing down, so still we are performing decent. So that should be a solace. But what is where do you see with the movement of the currency and the PLI schemes, what is our competitive advantage in the world today, and how do you see our exports going? It will be a very interesting insight, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, President Shri Saket Dalmia ji, and I request Dr. Manoj Pant for his viewpoint on the budget expectations.
Thank you, first of all, to PhD Chamber for inviting me, and to Mr. Dalmia for the question. Welcome to my old friend Sajay for the Ministry of Commerce. Well, you know, as an economist, I always believe it's good to start with what is the worrying aspects. The happy aspects everyone knows. And the worrying aspects to me is the international arena. And let me mention why I believe it is worrying. See, we had some extraneous circumstances. The pandemic was actually pretty good for India from the trade point of view. We exported a lot of agricultural goods. Our agricultural sector did well. And also the Ukraine crisis. And we also exported a lot of wheat, which is not going to continue, as you already see. So the exports have already been slowing down. That's not because of any problem on the Indian side. The world economy has been slowing down since 2008. And actually what's happening today is a continuation of that same, what you might call depressed situation in the global trade, right from 2008 onward. Nothing has changed. So I believe that the budget will pay special attention to this. There's only one way out. Trade constitutes, exports plus imports constitutes almost 45% of your GDP. Think of it more intuitively. 1 out of every 2 goods produced in the economy is either exported or imported. Now, if this fragment, this section of the world economy slows down, then I believe, personally, I believe that the 6% is unlikely. And I'll tell you why. If you look at the expectations or forecasts of any agency, whether the IMF, the World Bank, anyone, since 2016-17, they've been predicting world trade will increase by 1%, 2%. Frankly, that's the best we can expect at all at any time. Now, in this scenario, what is it that the budget can do? So the export scenario is not extremely rosy, except for one thing. And that's more in the political atmosphere, that the world wants to relocate away from reliance on only one supply chain. The existing supply chain in the world is East Asia to China and China to Europe and US. That's the established supply chain which began in the 80s. I think the world economy wants to relocate out of this. There's a lot of uncertainty about this kind of supply chain. Now, how can we do it? I believe the budget should focus on infrastructure, which it will. Because without that, you're going to go nowhere as far as exports are concerned. And also, as I think it was mentioned earlier, on the ease of doing business. Now, I know that there's a lot of focus on the national logistics policy. You know, it is no longer this concept of comparative advantage that the economists have talked about is meaningless if you can't get the stuff to the customers. So unless your ease of doing business, unless your logistics policy becomes a very strong policy to actually move towards exports, I don't see how the trade part is going to benefit us. But we are in a very sweet spot right now. But the sweet spot will not last endlessly. Please, let's be very clear. The world is not waiting for us to be ready. The world is saying, we are ready for you now, we are ready for restructuring. Are you ready? So the ball is in our court, not in the world's court. The world is, and remember one thing, your major trade partners, are the USA, Europe, UAE, and of course China in a very different way. Now these economies are not going to expand very fast, but they're willing to relocate. And I believe we are in a very good position to relocate. Services is going to be a driver, whatever people may say of the world economy, of the external economy for some years to go. Manufacturing must get there. And I'm sorry to say this, but our Indian industrialists must produce. We can't be a country of traders. We've become a country of traders, especially at the lower level. So here's my things which I think the government will do. They must encourage foreign investment. The incentives for foreign investment, although they are already laid down earlier, must increase in terms of some incentives coming up in the budget. And the incentives for MSMEs must increase. Frankly, the largest sector which exports to the MSMEs, that's not going to change very quickly in the near future. And I believe the most important incentive is the cost of capital. I mean, I don't know how many people here are in the MSME sector, but the biggest problem for the MSME is the cost of, you can't be giving loans at 8%, 9%. Frankly, it's not going to go. No one's going to do anything, no business at 8% rate of interest. It doesn't make any sense at all. So how do you reduce cost of capital to MSMEs? How do you restructure your logistics sector to aid trade? And how do we get ready for this shift, structural shift in the world economy is I think the only way forward as far as trade is concerned.
Thank you, Professor Manoj Pant. And the cost of capital is very, very important because this is affecting the price cost margins of the producers. So we have to ease the cost of doing business so that our enterprises are becoming more and more competitive in the international market. So our Vice President, Shri Hemant Jain, has also joined, and our former President, Shri D.K. Agarwalji, has also joined. So I request all the dignitaries for the lighting of the lamp, please. Thereafter, we will move forward with our other expectations. I request our former presidents to please come on the dais and we welcome a great economist, Dr. Ajay Chibber, and we thank him for joining us, sparing his valuable time from United States in the, I believe, the late hours of the night. And अच्छा अच्छा I request our Vice President, Shri Hemant Jain ji, to welcome Dr. Manoj Pant with the plant. So, before that, we invite our great economist, Dr. Ajay Chibber, for his viewpoint on the budget expectations, and we thank him for joining us from United States in the late hours of night. Dr. Ajay Chibber, please.
Thank you very much, sir. And thank you very much for inviting me again and giving me this opportunity, and greetings to all of you at the PhD chamber. I'm sorry I can't be there in person with you, but I'm there in spirit with you. This is a very important budget. It's the last budget before the big general elections. So there are a lot of expectations on it. I am in agreement with the economic survey that we are in a sweet spot, if you like. For the first time, we have higher growth and lower inflation than most major economies in the world. So, I mean, that surely is a sweet spot for India. But I would have not declared victory so soon on the pandemic, as the survey seems to do. And I hope that doesn't translate into the budget. If we have studied the effects of the global financial crisis quite extensively in India and in Asia. And while the headline macro numbers improve quickly, the scarring effects of these crises stay on for a very long time. And we must remember that the pandemic was a much bigger crisis than the global financial crisis. So I would expect the budget, I would hope that the budget does not declare victory on the pandemic. And of course, it's good to see some revival in the MSME sector, but as Dr. Pant has already also said, I think further relief on cost of credit to the MSME sector, but also scarring that families have undertaken, that should be pursued in the budget. Declaring premature victory is not a good thing in this case. I also think that the current account deficit is of some worry going forward. Yes, maybe we will grow again at 6-7%, but there are huge downside risks there as well. I do worry with the fact that with everybody else slowing down, the export performance will be a struggle. And the current account deficit, if it continues to remain very high, would have some worries. So I think that's something that, and therefore I think some evidence of fiscal consolidation becomes very important in the upcoming budget to signal that, the government this savings is making some space available for other sectors of the economy. Because if the fiscal deficit remains very high, then the fiscal space, then the saving space for recovery is also curtailed, especially if we have to see a revival of private capex. I think that some fiscal consolidation, I personally believe, is very, very important. So it will be a very tricky balancing act that the redoubtable Finance Minister, Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman, will have to perform, and we will see that soon, because she still has to keep infrastructure spending high. Probably will have to increase defense spending given the way China continues to breathe down our necks. We will have to rationalize subsidies to some extent. And I said, continue to help people with the scarring effects of the pandemic. So the way out I see is, I don't see much scope in increasing taxes, obviously, but a much rationalization of subsidies, an acceleration in the monetization, privatization program. Those would be obvious areas in which resources could be generated, especially if we have to keep infrastructure, maybe raise defense, increase health and education expenses. So it will be a tricky balancing act. So let's see how that all comes out in an hour or so. Thank you very much.
Dr. Shibar, will there be any impact of the slowdown in advanced economies on projected growth rate of India, like 6.7%? Or
so that's the downside risk, because I'm not a trade economist, but clearly all the trade economists predict that our exports are highly dependent on what's happening in our major markets. So those markets are slowing down. China actually is recovering, but with China, we have a huge trade deficit. So that's not going to be a big help to us unless we can break into some Chinese markets. But that's a slow, long process. But our major markets, America, EU, etc., they will all be slowing down. So I think that will be a big struggle. So whatever support we could give to the export sector will be very important. I am in favor of industrial policy, but I'm not a big fan of the way they have designed the PLI scheme, because I don't see an export bent into that PLI scheme, and also the amplifier effects of the PLI scheme on the MSME sector. Those linkages are not there. But I think there should be a bigger focus in this budget on ensuring that our export performance picks up.
Thank you, Dr. Chibber. Now let's move forward towards Shri Sajay Chadha ji. He's the former Regional Secretary, Government of India, and he has addressed so many issues of the trade and foreign trade investments, and particularly FTA, signing of free trade agreements with so many economies. So what are the expectations from the forthcoming budget, and how the trajectory of slowdown in the global economy is going to impact the Indian anticipated growth numbers? Shri Sanjay Chadha ji, please.
Before I hand it over to Chadha ji, just wanted to point out something so that we can get a government's point of view from you. So for the entire year, I don't think that the interaction we have had with government is unprecedented. I think the amount of interaction government has had with chambers, especially us, on all right from trade to finance to industry. And we feel that they understand our issues quite well. With that backdrop, do you think they are going to really put the money where it should be put? Do they have the flexibility when you're talking about CAD and so shortcomings? Do you think that they're going to go all out this time, looking at the environment that we're going to see the last budget before the elections? What do you say?
Thank you so much, Mr. Sanket Dalmia. Let me just start by a clarification that 33 years is long enough to be with the government. So I don't carry the government's viewpoint any longer. I have taken VRS. So yes, but I can bring a perspective based on my experience of 33 years past with the government. So having said that, yes, thank you, Mr. Sanket Dalmia. You made a very important point, as did Dr. S.P. Sharma, that what's different about the year. We have a very clear recessionary headwinds in the United States. The United States, you must have seen tech companies are laying off jobs. We have a huge challenge there. We have a huge workforce which is getting laid off, which are having challenges. Europe's economy is reeling with the Ukraine-Russia war, as was predicted that the fallout will be mostly borne by Europe, the energy crisis. There has been a silver lining there, as you know. Of course, it's controversial. Our oil imports from Russia at very, very competitive rates, but then everybody looks out for themselves. Having said that, I'd just like to say that both US and Europe are very large markets for us. So any contraction in these markets is likely to affect our exports. There's absolutely no doubt about it. And also that if you see our exports, we had a very good run. There were some bit of issues between US and the global scenario was such that Indian exports got a boost. Indian exports were able to, get tailwinds, which are now converting into headwinds. So the real challenge will lie on how to maintain our exports. We will have to have some kind of investment demand. Now, this year, the government obviously is going to attempt what they have called a pro-poor, pro-business budget. Now, the challenge in making a pro-poor, pro-business budget is that what happens to the fiscal deficit then? As was mentioned, it's already at 6.4%. We've been talking over a long time to bring it to 4.5%. And please understand that this is a key matrix which gives the country rating. So if the country rating falls, all the relocation which is happening globally, it gets affected by the country rating. We are positioning ourselves, we have to position ourselves as a recipient for all the relocation. We have had limited success when the relocations happen. Now here I'd just like to mention that the PLI scheme, when it was originally envisaged, came first in the mobile sector. That was the first PLI. And we got 3 companies, Foxconn, Biston, and the Apple and the mobile manufacturers to come here. But after that, the rest of the PLI, again, a lot of people have their views about it that, has it helped? How much of investment has come in additionally? Does it need to be restructured? But nevertheless, there is a huge demand that the PLI is something which is important. Now, the background of PLI is that we used to have MEIS, merchant export, where we used to incentivize export. That got challenged. It's no longer legally tenable. So you have to give incentives across board to people. So that is how the PLI concept was brought in, that we will not be able to give export incentives specifically only to exports in isolation, because it distorts the international markets. Having lost in WTO, we said, how do we make exports uniform across it? We've done that to quite an extent. So this is some of the background of the export-led, where the export scenario is. We are also facing that, a narrative of imports. Now, China has crossed $100 billion of imports. But again, I am a little, when I look at the analysis of the Chinese imports, around 62 to 64% are intermediaries. So some of it helps us to do the value addition. So not all imports from China are something which are really hitting our economy. On the budget, I would like to say that job creation and infrastructure funding are something which obviously the government is expected to continue. It's also going to look at, there are a lot of commitments that we are talking of on G20. We are running the G20 this year. We are hosting the G20. The primary narrative of G20 is sustainability, is green transition. So I would certainly expect the budget to echo that aspirations, because if we are going to be a global leader, we have to say something about what our green transition is going to be like. So some bit of elements would be reflected in the budget, I presume. The manufacturing sector has made certain requests for duty tweaks to promote manufacturing. These are defensive duty tweaks on maybe steel, electronics, plastics. I expect that some of it might find expression in the budget, because that's how the manufacturing is going to get a slight boost. And of course, there are individual aspirations. It's an election year. There is a huge demand from many sectors on giving relief in income tax, raising the exemption limits and the standard deduction limits. I feel that some of it would find its expression this year in the budget, because that's an aspiration of the electorate at large. So I don't think that will be completely, omitted. So certain reliefs in income tax can well be expected to come.
Thank you, Shri Sanjay Chadha ji, and we welcome our former presidents, Shri Ashok Kajaria ji, Shri Sanjay Agarwal ji, Dr. Mahesh Gupta ji, and our chairs of the expert committees for joining us in today's very prestigious program of PSD Chamber. And we welcome our Senior Vice President, Shri Sanjeev Agarwal ji, and his viewpoint on the budget expectations. Quickly, sir.
Now looking over India, what the budget will come, because everyone's expectation is very, very high. India today has the biggest economy growth all over the world. And today, right now, we expect a lot of good things from the government and from the manufacturing people. There are a lot of expectations of recessions. Actually, I tell you one thing which I faced in my business, which we are expecting. The inflation is really going to go up, because in our sector from October onwards, we are seeing that the buying power of the medium class people is going down, because the business, like our products are for the basically for the medium class people, and they are not able to, they're a little bit slow in the overall sales in our products. So we see there's a recession because inflation, because of the inflation, people have reduced their buying power. So we need a lot of concessions from the government so that people should be relieved. Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir. And Shri Hemant Jain ji, what are your expectations from the forthcoming budget? Our Vice President, PSD Chamber.
Good morning, everyone. I think like a lot of people have said, this is going to be a populist budget because it's just before the 2024 election. So what we can expect from is from the government, on what we would like to expect is more support to MSME, because like what some of the people have said, that the pandemic is gone, but the scars of pandemic still remain. So the MSME should be the focus area. As PhD, we are representing a large section of MSME. Even in the PLI scheme, which we have got, I think the MSME has not been represented properly in that. I think the PLI scheme has benefited the larger institutions, larger organizations like Apple, large pharma companies. So this is something maybe government needs to look into. Overall, I think what government has done is really the Atmanirbhar Bharat, which they've done. It takes time for us to build our economy back. So I think they have done a great job. Maybe in a couple of, if the government repeats itself in the next 5 years, we will expect better economic growth and better economic results. We would expect it a common man's budget. But for business, I think ease of business is something which we would really focus on. If they can reduce the burden on the businessmen, which is called decriminalization of a lot of provisions of businesses which are there, I think a lot of representation has been made by PhD. And if something can be done for that, I think that will really increase the ease of business for across board. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And now we can expect some suggestions from our Secretary General, Shri Saurabh Sanyalji, how the government is going to move ahead with this budget, which is coming in the next few minutes.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. Distinguished panelists on the dais, distinguished former presidents, large number of them who have come. We are very thankful to all of you that you have made your presence felt here today. Very important day today, and distinguished managing committee members, chairs of the various expert committees and state chapters. We expect a lot from the budget, especially as was spoken by many of them, including Dr. Chhabbar. I, being from the defense sector, I expect that the defense budget is going to take a fillip this year, especially because 52% of the budget has gone in the last 3 years into the salaries and the pensions of the defense personnel and the associated people. So we expect there are very big challenges in front of us. With the recent recce which was carried out by the Chinese premier along the Indian borders, it is expected that there is going to be a mass scale mobilization on both the sides. And therefore, we have to be very well prepared to take on any challenge which comes up in the near future. There are two major challenges. One is the modernization, another is the indigenization. So both have to go hand in glove. We cannot totally depend on either of them. There are some strategic platforms which have already been cleared by the Government of India, awaiting funds. And there are also indigenization process which has taken up in a very big way, especially for the drones. They have to be brought in for surveillance and recce's into the defense forces, whether it is the Army, Navy, Air Force, or Coast Guards. So these are certain challenges where we expect that the Government of India will certainly give a look and increase the budget by at least 15 to 20% this year, expecting an overall budget of around 1.2 lakh crores against 75,000 crores, which was there last year. The other is the demand-led budget. It should be a welfare budget. Some disposed income in the hands of the consumer so that the MSMEs get a big fillip. The ECLGS has already been extended till March 24. So we expect that a lot of good things will happen to the MSME sector as well as to the consumer. They will get some sort of a relief, because after the pandemic and before the elections, this is going to be one of the major key things in the government, that they will give some some good relief to the salaried class, where they will have some bit of disposed income to spend in their respective.
Thank you, Secretary General Shri Saurav Sanyal ji. And our major recommendation, as mentioned by our Secretary General, is to enhance the consumption trajectory, because now we have a sound demand that has to be supported by the great handholding of the government, because this is a major growth driver of the economy. If the consumption is happening, then the factories will also produce more. They will enhance the production possibilities and deploy more and more workforce in their respective factories, and that will create the employment and incomes, and that will be a great trajectory of the Indian economy, supported by the consumption to production in the factories, then the deployment of workforce, and then investments coming to India, particularly the private investments and the foreign investments. And we have suggested that the middle incomes must be rationalized, as there is a peak rate at the middle income level. 15 lakh is rated at 30% of the tax rate, and that is only the 6 multiple from the threshold level of 2.5 lakh to the 15 lakh. And in other economies, like in US, Dr. Ajay Chhabra will also comment on this, that this multiple is 37 times from the threshold to peak rate. And we are taxing the middle income at 15 lakhs. So that is the major incidence of taxation of the middle income, which is impacting the consumption trajectory and growth of the economy to get its potential level. I would request our President Shri Saket Dalmia ji to sum up our suggestions, and as the budget is coming in next few minutes.
Before I do that, since we have a direct taxes chair, we would love to listen to his point of view briefly as to what he really thinks is going to happen in terms of our expectations of a populist budget, in terms of less taxation, increase of threshold levels. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Saket. Is it on? You can hear me? Yeah, thank you. I think it's very difficult to predict anything. So what is going to happen is tough to say. But we can certainly say,
put the mic closer, sir.
yeah, we can certainly say what we have sought as a chamber, and also what is reasonably to be expected. There will be a thrust to the economy. There will be a thrust for the common man. There is an understanding that if revenue business enhances, then there is going to be a trickle-down effect. Tax rationalization is possible, because only if that happens, there will be more for everybody. If the economy grows, there will again be more for everybody, including the common man, including opportunity of jobs, for instance. Education, this will also, skilling, these aspects will also lead to opportunity for the common man and everybody for the future. Infrastructure, construction, big drivers of growth, big aspects of trickle-down and cascading effects. So infrastructure, construction, housing, these are things we are all for. And certainly India would be only too happy to have a roof over every family's head. Certain rationalizations are there which we are seeking from the chamber. Tax real income, not notional income. So tax the transaction on the actual transaction rate, not circle rate. If the actual rate is 20% less and everybody is selling at that, or if there is distress, COVID, etc., then tax the real rate, not artificial rates created by law. And there are other artificial notional incomes which are there, which we are seeking redressal from. The Vice President mentioned COVID is not wholly over and the effects are still there. So we have sought relief, amongst others, particularly for those industries which are affected by COVID. Travel, tourism, hotels, restaurant, mom and pop show restaurants, big hits to them. So what can be done for the future? Should there be a tax break for 2 years? Should there be a carryback of income against the losses? What should be done? So these are the sort of things which we have spoken about. There are a lot of other things in rationalization, But I can go on and on. You've been very kind to be involved in this presentation and in taking it where you want it, including for startups, for instance. So a lot of aspects are there. I can continue if time permits.
Thank you.
But
Thank
I've
you.
given
Thank you.
a feel.
So
Yeah.
to sum up, thank you so much,
Thank
sir.
you so much.
So I think
Before summing up, sir, can we have some view by Dr. D.K. Agarwal about the markets, how the markets will behave after this budget? Is there an opportunity to invest more in the stock market?
Well, one important provision, that is, they are talking of rationalizing the dividend, this capital gain tax, long-term capital gain tax. I think that is one provision which can really affect the market sentiment. In my view, they will not do anything because tinkering with the rationalization of capital gain tax, if it is reducing the tax, then it is fine, but there is no chance of reducing the tax. The only possibility to me which appears is they can increase the long-term capital gain tax to match with the other taxes, or they can increase the holding period. If any of these things is done, then it will affect the market sentiment. I hope they don't do this.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Now, sum up by our President, Shri Saket Dalmia ji.
thank you. So I think we have had both sides of the coin discussed here. Still a lot of fear, a lot of uncertainty. I think on the trade side, international trade side, we're still dependent on how international economies behave, irrespective of our effort of becoming Atmanirbhar Bharat or Made in India. I think it will take some time for that to kick in to substantially affect our performance. Still hangover in terms of, I think, coming out of COVID, we have heard that inflation rates are high, middle income families are spending less or they are able to spend less. Having interacted with the government, as our capital direct taxes chair also mentioned, that they understand, they're sensitive, their hands are tied. But I'm very hopeful that the amount of interaction we have had with the government and their understanding is far better today than ever before. I personally think, hearing from everybody and all our expert committees. And we are very hopeful that in every aspect of the budget, there will be an aspect of realism where money is required, they will put in the money. Where some rationalization is required, I think they will do the same. The government is sensitive that real spending power is important. With these inflationary pressures which we have faced, real income has gone down. So how do we put more in the hands of the consumer, which we are continuously talking about, so that we have a circular economy where we spend more into the economy. So that's what I think we are a small summary of what we are all expecting. I think our indirect taxes chair is also here. If you have a couple of minutes, it will be great to
Yes,
listen to his
Shri Bimal Jain ji.
expectations and
Quickly, your viewpoint in 2-3 minutes, if what is expected from the budget?
Good morning to all of you. From GST perspective, what we are expecting from the union budget, that we are looking for the roadmap for the GST rate rationalization. We are having different slab, 3%, 5%, 12%, 18%, 28%. We are looking at this would be turned around to 2 to 3 tier rate maximum. And that's what we have suggested from PSGCCI. Next thing which we are looking for, seamless flow of credit, which is somewhat we are finding missing in GST. Lot of bottleneck, a lot of condition and restriction for availing credit. The mantra of GST was that credit, whatever I paid on purchase, should be available to me. Third and foremost, decriminalization of certain offenses. We have seen that lot of inspection, search, seizure, arrest provision in GST. What we have suggested from PSGCCI, that yes, you should take all deterrent measure, whatever required to be, but you should institute prosecution provision only when there's fraud intent. It should not be used in a casual and general manner. There should be accountability and responsibility even for the tax official who are initiating prosecution provision. But they have to ensure that the fraud intent behind that. Last and foremost, because 2 to 3 minutes I'm being told, the GST is looking like, we started with good and simple tax. Of course, it is good and simple tax. We started with 70 lakh taxpayer in 2017, and today we are having 1.4 crore registered person in GST. GST is growing like anything. Indirect tax is growing by 25% year on year. That is the economic survey talking about. And indirect tax is the 53% contribution of overall tax revenue. So indirect tax is growing. When it is growing, what we are looking for, ease of business, simplification. And we want all procedural compliances in GST should be eased out. And it should be in such a manner that each of the businessmen get an opportunity to do business with each, with the lesser compliances, and of course, adding revenue for the nation growth and development.
Thank you, Bimal Jain ji, for your very, very promising comments. And Dr. Ram Singh has joined us from Delhi School of Economics. He's the head of the policy advocacy in Delhi School of Economics. Dr. Ram Singh, please.
Hello, Dr. Sharma. Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead, Dr. Ram. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma, for giving me an opportunity to share my experience from the budget. So, the last budget was remarkable in every single sense. This we know, all of us know. So, from this year's budget, what I expect is the continued fueling of the momentum that
I think there is some problem in the connectivity. Dr. Ram, we are not able to hear you. There is some problem in your connection.
Sorry about
Yeah. Quickly, in 1 minute. What is the great expectations from the policy advocacy from Delhi School of Economics?
That's right. I will complete in one minute and few seconds.
Yes.
So I expect finance minister to keep on fueling the economy by continued pump priming of capital infrastructure, capital expenditure in infrastructure. I also expect the finance minister to continue focus on health and education. But there are two areas where I expect the budget to pave new paths, to tread a new path. The first is what the previous speaker very ably described, the issue of taxation. So specifically two things. The most important thing to revive private investment and so that the private investment response to public expenditure be streamlining of capital tax regime. So at the moment, there is arbitrage that is happening. Some of that arbitrage can be.
Thank you, Dr. Ram. Thank you for sparing your valuable time.
Last 5 seconds would be focused on enhancing skill set of our labor force.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ram. Thank you, and thank you for your time sparing from Delhi School of Economics, and we look forward capital expenditure to be enhanced at a greater height. Thank you very much. So now we are shifting towards the budget and speech by Honorable Finance Minister, Madam Nirmala Sitharaman.
And the blueprint drawn for India at 100. We envision a prosperous and inclusive India in which the fruits of development will reach all sections and citizens especially our youth, women, farmers, OBCs, scheduled castes, and scheduled tribes. In the 75th year of our independence, the world has recognized the Indian economy as a bright star. Our current year's economic growth is estimated to be at 7%. It is notable that this is the highest among all the major economies. This is in spite of the massive slowdown globally caused by COVID-19 and the war. The Indian economy is therefore on the right track, and despite a time of challenges, heading towards a bright future. Today, as Indians stand with their head held high and the world appreciates India's achievements and successes, we are sure that elders who had fought for India's independence will, with joy, bless us in our endeavors going forward as well. Our focus on wide-ranging reforms and sound policies implemented through Sabka Prayas, resulting in Jan Bhagidari and targeted support to those in need, helped us perform well in trying times. India's rising global profile is because of the several accomplishments: unique world-class digital public infrastructure, example, Aadhaar, CoWIN, and UPI. COVID vaccination drive in unparalleled scale and speed, proactive role in frontier areas such as achieving the climate-related goals, Mission Life, and National Hydrogen Mission. During the COVID-19 pandemic, we ensured that no one goes to bed hungry with a scheme to supply free food grains to over 80 crore persons for 28 months. Continuing our commitment to ensure food and nutritional security, we are implementing from 1st January 2023 a scheme to supply free food grain to all Antyodaya and priority households for the next 1 year. Under PM Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana, the entire expenditure of about 2 lakh crore will be borne by the central government. In these times of global challenges, the G20 presidency gives us a unique opportunity to strengthen India's role in the world economic order. With the theme of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, we are steering an ambitious, people-centric agenda to address global challenges and to facilitate sustainable economic development. The government's efforts since 2014 have ensured for all citizens a better quality of life and life of dignity. The per capita income has more than doubled to 1.97 lakh rupees. In these 9 years, the Indian economy has increased in size from being 10th to 5th largest in the world. We have significantly improved our position as well as a well-governed and innovative country with a conducive environment for business as reflected in several global indices. We have made a significant progress in many sustainable development goals. The economy has become a lot more formalized as reflected in the EPFO membership, more than doubling to 27 crore and rupees 7,400 crore digital payments of 126 lakh crore rupees through UPI in 2022. The efficient implementation of many schemes with universalization of targeted benefits has resulted in inclusive development. Some of the schemes are 11.7 crore household toilets under Swachh Bharat mission, which is achieved, 9.6 crore LPG connections under Ujjwala, 220 crore COVID vaccination of 102 crore persons, 47.8 crore PM Jan Dhan bank accounts, insurance cover for 44.6 crore persons under PM Suraksha Bima and PM Jeevan Jyoti Yojana, and cash transfer of 2.2 lakh crores of rupees to 11.4 crore to over 11.4 crore farmers under PM Kisan Samman Nidhi. Our vision for the Amrit Kaal includes technology-driven and knowledge-based economy with strong public finances and a robust financial sector. To achieve this, Jan Bhagidari through Sabka Saath, Sabka Prayas is essential. The economic agenda for achieving this vision focuses on three things. First, facilitating ample opportunities for citizens, especially the youth, to fulfill their aspirations. Second, providing strong impetus to growth and job creation. And third, strengthening macroeconomic stability. To service these focus areas in our journey to India at 100, we believe that the following 4 opportunities can be transformative during Amrit Kaal. Economic empowerment of women. Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana National Rural Livelihood Mission has achieved remarkable success by mobilizing rural women into 81 lakh self-help groups. We will enable these groups to reach the next stage of economic empowerment through formation of large producer enterprises or collectives, with each having several thousand members and managed professionally. They will be helped with raw materials supply and for better design, quality, branding, and marketing of their products. Through supporting these policies, they will be enabled to scale up their operations to serve the large consumer markets, as has been the case with the several startups growing into unicorns. PM Vishwakarma Kaushal Samman, PM Vikas. For centuries, traditional artisans and craftspeople who work with their hands using tools have brought renown for India. They're generally referred to as Vishwakarma. The art and the handicraft created by them represents the true spirit of Atmanirbhar Bharat. For the first time, a package of assistance for them has been conceptualized. The new scheme will enable them to improve the quality, scale, and reach of their products, integrating them with the MSME value chain. The components of this scheme will include not only financial support, but also access to advanced skill training, knowledge of modern digital techniques, and efficient green technologies, brand promotion, linkage with local and global markets, digital payments, and social security. This will greatly benefit the scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, OBCs, women, and people belonging to the weaker sections. Tourism. The country offers immense attraction for domestic as well as foreign tourists. There is a large potential to be tapped in tourism. The sector holds huge opportunities for jobs and entrepreneurship for youth in particular. Promotion of tourism will be taken up on mission mode with active participation of states, convergence of government programs, and public-private partnerships. Green growth. We are implementing many programs for green fuel, green energy, green farming, green mobility, green buildings, and green equipment, and policies for efficient use of energy across various economic sectors. These green growth efforts help in reducing carbon intensity of the economy and provides for large-scale green job opportunities. Priorities of this budget. The budget adopts the following 7 priorities. They complement each other and act as the Saptarishi guiding us through the Amritkal. Inclusive development, reaching the last mile, infrastructure and investment, unleashing the potential, green growth, youth power, and financial sector. I now speak on the priority number 1, inclusive development. The government's philosophy of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas has facilitated inclusive development covering in specific farmers, women, youth, OBCs, scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, Divyangjan, and economically weaker sections, and overall priority for the underprivileged. Vanchiton ko variyata. There has also been a sustained focus on Jammu Kashmir, Ladakh, and the Northeast. This budget builds on those efforts. Digital public infrastructure for agriculture. Digital public infrastructure for agriculture will be built as an open source, open standard, and interoperable public good. This will enable inclusive farmer-centric solutions through relevant information services for crop planning and health, improved access to farm inputs, credit and insurance, help for crop estimation, market intelligence, and support for growth of agri-tech industry and startups. An agriculture accelerator fund. An agriculture accelerator fund will be set up to encourage agri startups by young entrepreneurs in rural areas. The fund will aim at bringing innovative and affordable solutions for challenges faced by farmers. It will also bring in modern technologies to transform agricultural practices, increase productivity and profitability. To enhance the productivity of extra long staple cotton, we will adopt a cluster-based and value chain approach through public-private partnerships. This will mean collaboration between farmers, state, and industry for input supplies, extension services, and market linkages. We will launch an Atmanirbhar Clean Plant program to boost availability of disease-free, quality planting material for high-value horticultural crops at an outlay of 2,200 crores. Global hub for millets, which are Sri Anna. India is the forefront. India is at the forefront of popularizing millets, whose consumption furthers nutrition, food security, and welfare of farmers, said the Honorable Prime Minister. We are the largest producer and second largest exporter of Sri Anna in the world. We grow several types of Sri Anna, such as Sri Anna Jowar, Sri Anna Ragi, Sri Anna Bajra, Sri Anna Kutu, Ramdana, Kangni, Kutni, Kutki, Kodo, China, and Sama. These are the number of health benefits and have been an integral part of our food for centuries. I acknowledge with pride the huge service done by small farmers in contributing to the health of fellow citizens by growing these Sri Anna. Now, to make India a global hub for Sri Anna, the Indian Institute of Millet Research, ideally Indian Institute of the Sri Anna Research, Hyderabad, will be supported as the center of excellence for sharing best practices, research, and technologies at the international level. The agricultural credit target will be increased to 20 lakh crores with focus on animal husbandry, dairy, and fisheries. We will launch a new sub-scheme of PM Matsya Sampada Yojana, which is an existing scheme, but we launch a new sub-scheme with targeted investment of 6,000 crores to further enable activities of fishermen, fish vendors, and micro and small entrepreneurs, improve value chain efficiencies, and expand the market. For farmers, especially small and marginal farmers and other marginalized sections, the government is promoting cooperative-based economic development model. A new Ministry of Cooperation was formed with a mandate to realize the vision of Sahakar Se Samriddhi. To realize this vision, the government has already initiated computerization of 63,000 primary agricultural credit societies with an investment of 2,560 crores, 2,516 crores. In consultation with all the stakeholders and the states, model bylaws for PACS were formulated, enabling them to become multi-purpose PACS. A national cooperative database is being prepared for countrywide mapping of cooperative societies. With this backdrop, we will implement a plan to set up massive decentralized storage capacity. This will help farmers store their produce and realize remunerative prices through sale at appropriate times. The government will also facilitate setting up of a large number of multi-purpose cooperative societies, primary fishery societies, and dairy cooperative societies in uncovered panchayat and villages in the next 5 years. Health, education, and skilling. 157 new nursing colleges will be established in co-location with the existing 157 medical colleges established since 2014. A mission to eliminate sickle cell anemia by 2047 will be launched. It will entail awareness creation, universal screening of 7 crore people in the age group of 0 to 40 years in affected tribal areas, and counseling through collaborative efforts of central ministries and state governments. Facilities in select ICMR labs, Indian Council for Medical Research Labs, will be made available for research by public and private medical college faculty and private sector R&D teams for encouraging collaborative research and innovation. A new program to promote research and innovation in pharmaceuticals will be taken up through centers of excellence. We shall also encourage industry to invest in research and development in specific priority areas. Dedicated multidisciplinary courses for medical devices will be supported in existing institutions to ensure availability of skilled manpower for futuristic medical technologies, high-end manufacturing, and research. Teachers training. Teachers training will be re-envisioned through innovative pedagogy, curriculum transaction, continuous professional development, dipstick surveys, and ICT implementation. The District Institute of Education and Training will be developed as vibrant institutes of excellence for this purpose. National Digital Library for Children and Adolescents. A National Digital Library for Children and Adolescents will be set up for facilitating availability of quality books across geographies, languages, genres, and levels, and device agnostic accessibility. States will be encouraged to set up physical libraries for them at panchayat and ward levels and provide infrastructure for accessing the national digital library resources. Additionally, to build a culture of reading and to make up for pandemic time learning loss, the National Book Trust, the Children's Book Trust, and other sources will be encouraged to provide and replenish non-curricular titles in regional languages and in English to these physical libraries. Collaboration with NGOs that work in literacy will also be a part of this initiative to inculcate financial literacy. Financial sector regulators and organizations will be encouraged to provide age-appropriate reading material to these libraries. I move to priority 2, reaching the last mile. Prime Minister Vajpayee's government had formed the Ministry of Tribal Affairs and the Department of Development of Northeast Region to provide a sharper focus to the objective of reaching the last mile. Our government has formed the ministries of Ayush, Fisheries, Animal Husbandry and Dairying, Skill Development, Jal Shakti, and Cooperation. Building on the success of the Aspirational Districts program, the government has recently launched the Aspirational Blocks program, covering 500 blocks for saturation of essential government services across multiple domains, such as health, nutrition, education, agriculture, water resources, financial inclusion, skill development, and basic infrastructure. Manya Speaker, sir, Pradhan Mantri PBTG, which is Primitive Vulnerable Tribal Groups Development Mission, is being launched. To improve socio-economic conditions of the particularly vulnerable tribal groups, the PBTGs as we refer them to, Pradhan Mantri PBTG Development Mission will be launched. This will saturate PBTG families and habitations with basic facilities such as safe housing, clean drinking water and sanitation, improved access to education, health, nutrition, road and telecom connectivity, and sustainable livelihood opportunities. An amount of 15,000 crores will be made available to implement the mission in the next 3 years under the Development Action Plan for the Scheduled Tribes. Ekalavya Model Residential Schools. In the next 3 years, Center will recruit 38,800 teachers. Support staff for the 740 Eklavya model residential schools, which is serving 3.5 lakh tribal students. In the drought-prone central regions of Karnataka, central assistance of 5,300 crore will be given to Upper Bhadra project. To provide sustainable micro irrigation and filling up of surface tanks for drinking water. PM Awas Yojana. The outlay for PM Awas Yojana is being enhanced by 66% to over 79,000 crores. Bharat Shared Repository of Inscriptions will be set up in a digital epigraphy museum with digitization of 1 lakh ancient inscriptions in the first stage. Support for poor prisoners. The poor persons who are in prisons and unable to afford the penalty or the bail amount, required financial support will be provided. Priority number 3, infrastructure and investment. Investments in infrastructure and productive capacity have a large multiplier impact on growth and employment. After the subdued period of the pandemic, private investments are growing again. The budget takes the lead once again to ramp up the virtuous cycle of investment and job creation. Honorable Speaker, sir, the capital investment outlay is being increased steeply for the 3rd year in a row by 33% to 10 lakh crores, which would be would be 3.3% of GDP. This will almost be 3 times the outlay made in 2019-20. Substantial increase in recent years is central to the government's efforts to enhance growth potential and job creation, crowd in private investments, and provide a cushion against global headwinds. The direct capital investment by the center is complemented by the provision made for creation of capital assets through grants and aids to state. The effective capital expenditure of the center is budgeted at 13.7 lakh crore rupees, which will be 4.5% of GDP. Support to state governments for capital investment. I have decided to continue the 50-year interest-free loan to state governments for 1 more year to spur investment in infrastructure and to incentivize them for complementary policies actions with a significantly enhanced outlay of 1.3 lakh crores. The newly established Infrastructure Finance Secretariat will assist all stakeholders for more private investment in infrastructure, including railways, roads, urban infrastructure, and power, which are predominantly depend on public resources. The harmonized master list of infrastructure will be reviewed by an expert committee for recommending the classification and financing framework suitable for Amartkal. A capital outlay, I'm talking about railways now, sir, Honorable Speaker, railways. A capital outlay of 2.40 lakh crores has been provided for the railways. This is the highest ever outlay this highest ever outlay is about 9 times the outlay made in 2013-14. 100 critical transport infrastructure projects for last and first mile connectivity for ports, coal, steel, fertilizer, and food grain sectors have been identified. They will be taken up on priority with investment of 75,000 crores, including 15,000 crore from private sources. 50 additional airports, heliports, water aerodromes, and advanced landing grounds will be revived for improving regional air connectivity. Sustainable cities for tomorrow. States and cities will be encouraged to undertake urban planning reforms and actions to transform our cities into sustainable cities of tomorrow. This means efficient use of land resources, adequate resources for urban infrastructure, transit-oriented development, enhanced availability and affordability of urban land and opportunities for all. Through property tax governance reforms and ring-fencing user charges on urban infrastructure, cities will be incentivized to improve their creditworthiness for municipal bonds. Like the RIDF, an urban infrastructure development fund will be established through use of priority sector lending shortfall. This will be managed by the National Housing Bank and will be used by public agencies to create urban infrastructure in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. States will be encouraged to leverage resources from the grants of the 15th Finance Commission, as well as existing schemes, to adopt appropriate user charges while accessing the UIDF. We expect to make available 10,000 crore rupees per annum for this purpose. All cities and towns will be enabled for 100% mechanical desludging of septic tanks and sewers to transition from manhole to machine hole mode. Enhanced focus will be provided for scientific management of dry and wet waste. Honorable Speaker, sir, our Prime Minister had said, good governance is the key to a nation's progress. Our government is committed to providing a transparent and accountable administration which works for the betterment and welfare of common citizens. Mission Karma Yogi. Under Mission Karma Yogi, center, states, and the union territories are making and implementing capacity building plans for civil servants. The government has also launched an integrated online training platform, I Got Karma Yogi, to provide continuous learning opportunities for lakhs of government employees to upgrade their skills and facilitate people-centric approach. Sir, for enhancing ease of doing business, more than 39,000 compliances have been reduced, and more than 3,400 legal provisions have been decriminalized. For furthering the trust-based governance, we have introduced the Jan Vishwas Bill to amend 42 central acts. This budget proposes a series of measures to unleash the potential of our economy. centers of excellence for artificial intelligence, for realizing the vision of make AI in India and make AI work for India. 3 centers of excellence for artificial intelligence will be set up in top educational institutions. Leading industry players will partner in conducting interdisciplinary research, develop cutting-edge applications, and scalable problem solutions in the areas of agriculture, health, and sustainable cities. This will galvanize an effective AI ecosystem and nurture quality human resources in the field. National Data Governance Policy to unleash innovation and research by startups and academia. A national data governance policy will be brought out. This will enable access to anonymized data. The KYC process will be simplified, adopting a risk-based instead of one-size-fits-all approach. The financial sector regulators will also be encouraged to have a KYC system fully amenable to meet the needs of digital India. One-stop solution for identity and address updating. A one-stop solution for reconciliation and updating of identity and address of individuals maintained by various government agencies, regulators, and regulated entities will be established using DigiLocker service and Aadhaar as foundational identity. Speaker, sir, common business identifier. For the business establishments required to have a permanent account number, the PAN will be used as the common identifier for all digital systems of specified government agencies. This will bring ease of doing business, and it will be facilitated through a legal mandate. For obviating the need for separate submission of same information to different government agencies, a system of unified filing process will be set up. Such filing of information or return in simplified forms on a common portal will be shared with other agencies as per the filer's choice. Vivad Se Vishwas 1, relief for MSMEs. In cases of failure by MSMEs to execute contracts during the COVID period, 95% of the forfeited amount relating to the bid or performance security will be returned to them by government and government undertakings. This will provide relief to the MSMEs. Vivad Se Vishwas 2, settling contractual disputes. To settle contractual disputes of government and government undertakings, wherein arbitral award is under challenge in a court, a voluntary settlement scheme with standardized terms will be introduced. This will be done by offering graded settlement terms depending on pendency level of the dispute. The state support mission of Niti Aayog will be continued for 3 years for our collective efforts towards national priorities. Result-based financing. To better allocate scarce resources for competing development needs, the financing of select schemes will be changed on a pilot basis from input-based to result-based. E-courts. For efficient administration of justice, phase 3 of e-courts projects phase 3 of the e-courts project will be launched with an outlay of 7,000 crores. Fintech services in India have been facilitated by our digital public infrastructure, including Aadhaar, PM Jan Dhan Yojana, Video, KYC, India Stack, and UPI. To enable more fintech innovative services, the scope of documents available in DigiLocker for individuals will be expanded. An entity, DigiLocker, will be set up for the use by MSMEs, large businesses, and also charitable trusts. This will be towards storing and sharing documents online securely whenever needed with various authorities, regulators, banks, and other business entities. 5G services. 100 labs for developing applications using 5G services will be set up in engineering institutions. To realize the new range of opportunities, business models, and employment potential. The labs will cover, among others, applications such as smart classrooms, precision farming, intelligent transport systems, and healthcare applications. Lab-grown diamonds. Lab-grown diamonds is a technology and innovation-driven emerging sector with high employment potential. These environment-friendly diamonds, which have optically and chemically the same properties as natural diamonds. To encourage indigenous production of LGD, lab-grown diamond seeds and machines, and to reduce import dependency, a research and development grant will be provided to one of the IITs for 5 years. To reduce the cost of production, a proposal to review the custom duty on LGD seeds will be indicated in Part B of the speech. I come to the fifth priority, Honorable Speaker, sir, green growth. Honorable Prime Minister has given a vision for life or lifestyle for environment to spur a movement of environmentally conscious lifestyle. India is moving forward firmly for the Panchamrit, the net zero carbon emission by 2070 to usher in green industrial and economic transition. This budget builds on our focus on green growth. The recently launched National Green Hydrogen Mission, with an outlay of 19,700 crores, will facilitate transition of the economy to low carbon intensity, reduce dependence on fossil fuel imports, and make the country assume technology and market leadership in this sunrise sector. Our target is to reach an annual production of 5 MMT by 2030. Energy transition. This budget provides for 35,000 crores for priority capital investment towards energy transition and net zero objectives and energy security by Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. To steer the economy on sustainable development path, battery energy storage systems with capacity of 4,000 MWH will be supported with viability gap funding. A detailed framework for pumped storage projects will also be formulated. Renewable energy evacuation. The interstate transmission system for evacuation and grid integration of 13 gigawatt renewable energy from Ladakh will be constructed with investment of 20,700 crores, including central support of 8,300 crores. Green credit program. For encouraging behavioral change, a green credit program will be notified under the Environment Protection Act. This will incentivize environmentally sustainable, and responsive actions by companies, individuals, and local bodies, and help mobilize additional resources for such activities. PM Program for Restoration, Awareness, Nourishment, and Amelioration of Mother Earth, PM Pranam, will be launched to incentivize states and union territories to promote alternative fertilizers and balanced use of chemical fertilizers. Go Bardhan Scheme, 500 new waste to wealth plants under Go Bardhan, galvanizing organic bio-agro resources done. Go Bardhan scheme will be established for promoting circular economy. These will include 200 compressed biogas plants, including 75 plants in urban areas and 300 community or cluster-based plants at a total investment of 10,000 crores. I will refer to this in Part B also. In due course, a 5% CBG mandate will be introduced for all organizations marketing natural and biogas. For collection of biomass and distribution of biomanure, appropriate fiscal support will also be provided. Bharatiya Prakritik Kheti Bio Input Resource Centers. Over the next 3 years, we will facilitate 1 crore farmers to adopt natural farming. For this, Honorable Speaker, 10,000 bio input resource centers will be set up, creating a national level distributed micro fertilizer and pesticide manufacturing network. Mishti. Building on India's success in afforestation, mangrove initiative for shoreline habitats and tangible incomes, Mishti, will be taken up for mangrove plantation along the coastline and on salt pan lands wherever feasible through convergence between Manrega, Campa Fund and other sources. Amrit Dharohar. Wetlands are vital ecosystems which sustain biological diversity. In his latest Mann Ki Baat, the Prime Minister said, now, I quote, now the total number of Ramsar sites in our country has increased to 75, whereas before 2014, there were only 26, unquote. Local communities have always been at the forefront of conservation efforts. The government will promote their unique conservation values through Amrit Dharohar, a scheme that will be implemented over the next 3 years to encourage optimal use of wetlands and enhance biodiversity, carbon stock, ecotourism opportunities, and income generation for local communities. Coastal shipping. Coastal shipping will be promoted as an energy efficient and lower cost mode of transport, both for passengers and freight, through PPP mode with viability gap funding. Vehicle replacement. Vehicle replacement is an important continuing policy, replacing the old political, Absolutely, thank you. Replacing old polluting vehicles. Very applicable, right? Replacing old polluting vehicles is an important part of greening our economy. In furtherance of the vehicle scrapping policy mentioned in Budget 21-22, I have allocated adequate funds to scrap old vehicles of the central government. States will also be supported in replacing old vehicles and old state ambulances. Honorable Speaker, sir, I move to priority 6, youth power. To empower our youth and help the Amrit PD realize their dreams, we have formulated the National Education Policy, which is very wide in its scope, but one of the things is also to focus on skilling, adopted economic policies that facilitate job creation at scale and have supported business opportunities. Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana. Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana 4.0 will be launched to skill lakhs of youth within the next 3 years. On-job training, industry partnership, and alignment of courses with needs of industry will be emphasized. The scheme will also cover new age courses for Industry 4.0 like coding, AI, robotics, mechatronics, IoT, 3D printing, drones, and other soft skills. To skill youth for international opportunities, 30 Skill India International Centers will be set up across different states. The digital ecosystem for skilling will be further expanded with the launch of a unified Skill India digital platform for enabling demand-based formal skilling, linking with employers, including MSMEs, and facilitating access to entrepreneurship schemes. To provide stipend support to 47 lakh youths in 3 years, direct benefit transfer under a pan-India national apprenticeship promotion scheme will be rolled out. Tourism. Honorable Speaker, sir, with an integrated and innovative approach, at least 50 destinations will be selected through challenge mode. In addition to aspects such as physical connectivity, virtual connectivity, tourist guides, high standards for food streets, and tourist security, all the relevant aspects would be made available on an app to enhance tourist experience. Every destination would be developed as a complete package. The focus of development of tourism would be on domestic as well as foreign tourists. Sector-specific skilling and entrepreneurship development will be dovetailed to achieve the objectives of Dekho Apna Desh initiative. This was launched as an appeal by the Honorable Prime Minister to the middle class to prefer domestic tourism over international tourism. The integrated development of theme-based tourist circuits, the Swadesh Darshan scheme, was also launched. Under the Vibrant Villages program, tourism infrastructure and amenities will be facilitated in border villages. Unity Mall. States will be encouraged to set up a Unity Mall in their state capital or most prominent tourism center or the financial capital for promotion and sale of their one district, one product and GI products and other handicraft products, and for providing space for such products of all other states as well. Sir, priority number 7, financial sector. Our reforms in the financial sector and innovative use of technology have led to financial inclusion at scale, better and faster service delivery, ease of access to credit, and participation in financial markets. This budget proposes to further these measures. Credit guarantee for MSMEs. Last year, I proposed revamping of the credit guarantee scheme for the MSMEs. I'm happy to announce that the revamped scheme will take effect from 1st April 2023 through infusion of 9,000 crores in the corpus. This will enable additional collateral-free guaranteed credit of 2 lakh crores of rupees. Further, the cost of credit will be reduced by about 1%. A national financial information registry will be set up to serve as the central repository of financial and ancillary information. This will facilitate efficient flow of credit, promote financial inclusion, and foster financial stability. A new legislative framework will govern this credit public infrastructure and will be designed in consultation with the RBI. To meet the needs of Amrit Kaal and to facilitate optimum regulation in the financial sector, public consultation, as necessary and feasible, will be brought to the process of regulation making and issuing subsidiary directions. To simplify, to ease, and to reduce cost of compliance, financial sector regulators will be requested to carry out a comprehensive review of existing regulations. For this, they will consider suggestions from public and regulated entities. Time limits to decide the application under various regulations will also be laid down. Honorable Speaker, sir, to enhance business activities in GIFT IFSC, the following measures will be taken. Delegating powers under the SEZ Act to the IFSCA to avoid dual regulation. Setting up a single window IT system for registration and approval of IFSCA, SEZ authorities, GSTN, RBI, SEBI, and IRDAI. Permitting acquisition financing by IFSC banking units of foreign banks. Establishing a subsidiary of Exim Bank for trade refinancing. Amending IFSCA Act for statutory provisions for arbitration, ancillary services, and avoiding dual regulation under the SEZ Act, and recognizing offshore derivative instruments as valid contracts. Honorable Speaker, sir, data embassy. For countries looking for digital continuity solutions, we will facilitate setting up of their data embassies in GIFT IFSC. Improving governance and investor protection in banking sector. To improve bank governance and enhance investors' protection, certain amendments to the Banking Regulation Act, the Banking Companies Act, and the Reserve Bank of India Act are being proposed. Capacity building in securities market. Honorable Speaker, sir, to build capacity of functionaries and professionals in the securities market, SEBI will be empowered to develop, regulate, maintain, and enforce norms and standards for education in the National Institute of Securities Markets and to recognize award of degrees, diplomas, and certificates. A central processing center will be set up for faster response to companies through centralized handling of various forms filed with field officers under the Companies Act. Reclaiming of shares and dividends. For investors to reclaim unclaimed shares and unpaid dividends from the Investor Education and Protection Fund Authority with ease, from the Investor Education and Protection Fund Authority with ease, an integrated IT portal will be established. Digital payments continue to find wide acceptance. In 2022, they show an increase of 76% in transaction and 91% in value. Fiscal support for this digital public infrastructure will continue in 2023-2024. Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, Mahila Samman Bachat Patra. For commemorating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, a one-time new small savings scheme, Mahila Samman Savings Patra or Savings Certificate, Mahila Samman Savings Certificate will be made available for a 2-year period up to March 2025. This will offer deposit facility up to 2 lakh in the name of a woman or girls for a tenor of 2 years at fixed interest rate of 7.5% with partial withdrawal option. Senior citizens. The maximum deposit limit for senior citizens savings scheme will be enhanced from 15 lakh to 30 lakhs of rupees. The maximum deposit limit for monthly income account scheme will be enhanced from 4.5 lakh to 9 lakh for single account and from 9 lakh to 15 lakh for joint account. Honorable Speaker, sir, fiscal management. 50 years interest-free loan to states. The entire 50-year loan to states has to be spent on capital expenditure within 2023-24. Most of this will be at the discretion of the states, but a part will be conditional on states increasing their actual capital expenditure. Parts of the outlay will also be linked to or allocated for the following purposes: scrapping old government vehicles, urban planning reforms and actions, financing reforms in urban local bodies to make them credit-worthy for municipal bonds, housing for police personnel above or as part of the police station, constructing unity malls, children and adolescent libraries and digital infrastructure, and state share of capital expenditure of central schemes. Honorable Speaker, sir, fiscal deficit of states. States will be allowed a fiscal deficit of 3.5% of GSDP, of which 0.5% will be tied to power sector reforms. Revised estimates 2022 to 2023. The revised estimate, Honorable Speaker, sir, of the total receipts other than borrowing is 24.3 lakh crores, of which the net tax receipts are 20.9 lakh crores. The revised estimate of the total expenditure is 41.9 lakh crores of rupees, of which the capital expenditure is about 7.3 lakh crores. The revised estimate of the fiscal deficit is 6.4% of GDP, adhering to the budget estimate. So budget estimates of 2023-24. Coming to 2023-24, the total receipts other than borrowings and the total expenditure are estimated at 27.2 lakh crores and 45 lakh crores respectively. The net tax receipts are estimated at 23.3 lakh crores. The fiscal deficit is estimated to be 5.9% of the GDP. In my budget speech for 21-22, I had announced that we plan to continue the path of fiscal consolidation, reaching a fiscal deficit of below 4.5% by 2025-26, with a fairly steady decline over the period. We have adhered to this path, and I reiterate my intention to bring the fiscal deficit below 4.5% of GDP by 2025-26. To finance the fiscal deficit in 2023-24, the net market borrowings from dated securities are estimated at 11.8 lakh crores. The balance financing is expected to come from small savings and other sources. The gross market borrowings are estimated at 15.43 lakh crores of rupees. Honorable Speaker, sir, I now move to Part B. Indirect taxes. My indirect tax proposals will aim to promote exports, boost domestic manufacturing, enhance domestic value addition, encourage green energy and mobility. A simplified tax structure with fewer tax rates helps in reducing compliance burden and improving tax administration. I propose to reduce the number of basic customs duty rates on goods other than textiles and agriculture from 21 to 13. As a result, there are minor changes in the basic custom duties, cesses and surcharges on some items, including toys, bicycle, automobiles, and naphtha. Green mobility. To avoid cascading of taxes on blended compressed natural gas, I propose to exempt excise duty on GST paid compressed biogas contained in it. To further provide impetus to green mobility, customs duty exemptions is being extended to import of capital goods and machinery required for manufacture of lithium-ion cells for batteries used in electrical vehicles as well. Electronics. As a result of various initiatives of the government, including phased manufacturing program, mobile phone production in India has increased from 5.8 crore units valued at about 18,900 crore in 2014-15 to 31 crore units valued at 2,75,000 crore in the last financial year. To further deepen domestic value addition in manufacturing of mobile phones, I propose to provide relief to customs duty. I propose to provide relief in customs duty on import of certain parts and inputs like camera lens, and continue the concessional duty on lithium-ion cells for batteries for another year. Similarly, to promote value addition in manufacture of televisions, I propose to reduce the basic customs duty on parts of open cells of TV panels to 2.5%. Electrical. To rectify inversion of duty, structure and encourage manufacturing of electric kitchen chimneys, the basic custom duty on electric kitchen chimney is being increased from 7.5% to 15%, and that on heat coils for these is proposed to be reduced from 20% to 15%. Chemicals and petrochemicals. Denatured ethyl alcohol is used in chemical industry. I propose to exempt basic customs duty on it. This will also support the ethanol blending program and facilitate an endeavor for energy transition. Basic customs duty is also being reduced on acid grade fluorospar from 5% to 2.5% to make the domestic fluorochemicals industry competitive. Further, the basic customs duty on crude glycerin for use in manufacture of epichlorohydrin is proposed to be reduced from 7.5% to 2.5%. Marine products. In the last financial year, marine products recorded the highest export growth, benefiting farmers in the coastal states of the country. To further enhance the export competitiveness of marine products, particularly shrimps, duty is being reduced on key inputs for domestic manufacture of shrimp feed. India is a global leader, as I said in part A, in cutting and polishing of natural diamonds, contributing about 3/4 of the global turnover by value. With the depletion of deposits of natural diamonds, the industry is moving towards lab-grown diamonds, and it holds huge promise. To seize this opportunity, I propose to reduce the basic customs duty on seeds used in their manufacture. Custom duties on door or doré and bars of gold and platinum were increased earlier this fiscal. I propose to increase the duties on articles made therefrom to enhance the duty differential. I also propose to increase the import duty on silver doors, bars, and articles to align them with that on gold and platinum. To facilitate availability of raw materials for the steel sector, exemptions from basic custom duty on raw materials for manufacture of CRGO steel, ferrous scrap, and nickel cathode is being continued. Similarly, the concessional BCD of 2.5% on copper scrap is also being continued to ensure the availability of raw materials for secondary copper producers, for mainly in the MSME sectors. Compounded rubber. The basic custom duty rate on compounded rubber is being increased from 10% to 25% or 30 kg, whichever is lower, at par with that of natural rubber other than latex, to curb circumvention of duty. Cigarettes. National calamity contingent duty on specified cigarettes was last revised 3 years ago. This is proposed to be revised upwards by about 16%. Direct taxes. I now come to my direct tax proposals. Honorable Speaker, these proposals aim to maintain continuity and stability of taxation, further simplify and rationalize various provisions to reduce the compliance burden, promote the entrepreneurial spirit, and provide tax relief to citizens. It has been constant endeavor of the Income Tax Department to improve taxpayer services by making compliance easy and smooth. Our taxpayers portal received a maximum of 72 lakh returns in a day, processed more than 6.5 crore returns this year. Average processing period reduced from 93 days in financial year 13-14 to 16 days only now. 45% of the returns were processed within 24 hours. We intend to further improve this, roll out the next generation common IT return form for taxpayer convenience, and also plan to strengthen the grievance redressal mechanism. MSMEs and professionals. MSMEs are growth engines of our economy. Micro enterprises with turnover up to 2 crore of rupees and certain professionals with turnover of up to 50 lakh rupees can avail the benefit of presumptive taxation. I propose to provide enhanced limits of 3 crore and 75 lakh respectively to the taxpayers whose cash receipts are no more than 5%. Whose cash receipts are no more than 5%. Moreover, to support MSMEs in timely receipt of payments, I propose to allow deduction for expenditure incurred on payments made to them only when payment is actually made. Cooperation. Cooperation is a value to be cherished. In realizing our Prime Minister's goal for Sehkar Se Samriddhi and his resolve to connect the spirit of cooperation with the spirit of Amrit Kal, in addition to the measures proposed in Part A, I have a slew of proposals for the cooperation sector. First, new cooperatives that commence manufacturing activities till 2024, 31st March, shall get the benefit of a lower tax rate of 15%, as is presently available to new manufacturing companies. Secondly, I propose to provide an opportunity to sugar cooperatives to claim payments made to sugarcane farmers for the period prior to the assessment year 2016-17 as expenditure. This is expected to provide them a relief of almost 10,000 crores. Thirdly, I'm providing a higher limit of 2 lakh per member for cash deposits to loans in cash by primary agricultural cooperative societies and primary cooperative agriculture and rural development banks. I repeat that. Thirdly, I'm providing a higher limit of 2 lakh per member for cash deposits to and loans in cash by primary agricultural cooperative societies and primary cooperative agricultural and rural development banks. Similarly, a higher limit of 3 crore for TDS on cash withdrawal is being provided to cooperative societies. Startups. Entrepreneurship is vital for a country's economic development. We have taken a number of measures for startups and they have borne results. India is now the third largest ecosystem for startups globally and ranks second in innovation quality among middle-income countries. I propose to extend the date of incorporation for income tax benefits to startups from 31/3/2023 to 31/3/2024. I further propose to provide the benefit of carry forward of losses on change of shareholding of startups from 7 years of incorporation to 10 years. To reduce the pendency of appeals at commissioner level, I propose to deploy about 100 joint commissioners for disposal of small appeals. We shall also be more selective in taking up cases for scrutiny of returns already received this year. Better targeting of tax concessions. For better targeting of tax concessions and exemptions, I propose to cap deduction from capital gains on investment in residential house under Section 54 and Section 54F to 10 crores. Another proposal with similar intent is to limit income tax exemption from proceeds of insurance policies with very high value. Rationalization. Honorable Speaker, sir, there are a number of proposals relating to rationalization and simplification. Income of authorities, boards, and commissions set up by statutes of union or state for the purpose of housing, development of cities, towns, and villages, and regulating and developing an activity or matter is proposed to be exempted from income tax. Other major measures in this direction are removing the minimum threshold of 10,000 for TDS and clarifying taxability relating to online gaming, not treating conversion of gold into electronic gold receipts and vice versa as capital gains, reducing the TDS rate from 30% to 20% on taxable portion of EPF withdrawals in non-PAN cases, and taxation on income for market-linked debentures. Other major proposals in the finance bill relate to the following: extension of period of tax benefits to funds relocating to IFSC, GIFT City till 31/3/2025, decriminalization under Section 276A of the Income Tax Act, allowing carry forward of losses on strategic disinvestment, including that of IDBI Bank, and providing EEE status to Agnivir Fund. Personal income tax. Now I come to what everyone is waiting for. Personal income tax. I have 5 major announcements to make in this regard. These primarily benefit our hard-working middle class. The first one concerns rebate. Currently, those with income up to 5 lakh do not pay any tax, do not pay any income tax in both old and new regimes. I propose to increase the rebate limit to 7 lakhs in the I propose to increase the rebate limit to 7 lakh in the new tax regime. Thus, persons in the new tax regime with income up to 7 lakhs will not have to pay any tax at all. The second proposal relates to middle-class individuals. I had introduced in the year 2020 the new personal income tax regime with 6 income slabs starting from 2.5 lakh. I propose to change the tax structure in this regime by reducing the number of slabs to 5 and increasing the tax exemption limit to 3 lakhs. The new tax rates are 0 to 3 lakh, nil. 3 to 6 lakhs, 5%. 6 to 9 lakhs, 10%. 9 to 12 lakh, 15%. 12 to 15 lakhs, 20%. And above 15 lakhs, 30%. This will provide major relief to all taxpayers in the new regime. An individual with an annual income of 9 lakhs will be required to pay only 45,000 rupees. This is only 5% of his or her income. It is a reduction of 25% on what he or she is required to pay now. That is 60,000. So in the place of 60,000, it is now only 45,000. Similarly, an individual with an income of 15 lakh rupees would be required to pay only 1.5 lakh or 10% of his income or her income, a reduction of 20% from the existing liability of 1,87,500 rupees. My third proposal is for the salaried class and the pensioners, including family pensioners, for whom I propose to extend the benefit of standard deduction to the new tax regime. Each salaried person with an income of 15.5 lakh rupees or more will thus stand to benefit by 52,500 rupees. My fourth announcement in personal income tax is regarding the highest tax rate, which in our country is 42.74%. This is among the highest in the world. I propose to reduce the highest surcharge. I propose to reduce the highest surcharge rate from 37% to 25% in the new tax regime. This would result in reduction of the maximum rate. This would result in the reduction of the maximum tax rate to 39%. Lastly, the limit of 3 lakh rupees for tax exemption on leave encashment on retirement of non-government salaried employees was last fixed in the year 2002, when the highest basic pay in the government was only 30,000 rupees per month. In line with the increase in the government salaries, I'm proposing to increase this limit to 25 lakh rupees. We are also making the new income tax regime as the default tax regime. However, citizens will continue to have the option to avail the benefit of the old tax regime. Apart from these, I'm also making some other changes as given in the annexure. As a result of these proposals, revenue of about 38,000 crore to 37,000 crore in direct taxes and rupees 1,000 crore in indirect taxes will be foregone, while revenue of about 3,000 crore will be additionally mobilized. Thus, the total revenue foregone is about 35,000 crores annually. Honorable Speaker, sir, with these words, I commend the budget to this August House.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, I request your kind attention, please. Dear ladies and gentlemen, I request your kind attention, please, and would appeal you all to kindly take your seats as we are about to start with the post-budget discussion. And on the stage, I would like to request the following eminent guests to kindly come and take their seats. Mr. Saket Dalmia, President and Managing Director of PhD Chambers. Mr. Anil Chopra, Chair of Direct Tax Committee, PhD Chamber. Our guest for the post-budget session, I request you all to kindly come and take your seats on the dais. Mr. Saket Dalmia, President and Managing Director of PhD Chamber. Mr. Sanjay, I beg your pardon. Mr. Anil Chopra, Chair of Direct Tax Committee, PhD Chamber. Mr. Bimal Jain, Chair of Indirect Tax Committee of PhD Chambers. Mr. Manoj Gaur, former Additional Secretary to the Government of India at the Department of Commerce. Mr. Bipin Bora, Chair of Civil Aviation Committee, PhD Chamber. Mr. Mohit Jain, Chair of MSME Committee, PhD Chambers. Colonel K.V. Kuber, Indian Army veteran and Director of Aerospace and Defense, Ernst & Young LLP. And finally, Mr. Vikram Singh Mehta, Co-Chairman, Economic Affairs Committee, PhD Chambers. I once again request all the dignitaries to kindly come on the dais and take your seats. Hi. Gentlemen, I would request once again to kindly take your seats as we should start the session quickly.
DK sir, can we start? We'd like the ex-presidents to give their views. So, Sanjay ji, maybe you could start your quick views on the budget.
Gentlemen, I would request you all to kindly take your seats, and I would also request Mr. Saket Dalmia, the President and Managing Director of PhD Chambers, to kindly come on the dais. Okay. So should we start? Okay. All right. So starting with Mr. Vikram Singh Mehta, who is also the co-chairman, Economic Affairs Committee, PhD Chambers. The budget, which has been presented by the Honorable Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman ji today, she spoke about the Saptarishi and 7 priorities of the union budget, starting with inclusive growth, digital infrastructure, agricultural aid, finance sector, infrastructure and investment, green growth, youth power, and the other unleashing potential. And of course, not forgetting the income tax rebate, which she has introduced, something which has always been talked about as a populist measure, but it looks more pragmatic instead of being populist, considering that the 2024 is general elections are around the corner. How do you see and perceive this budget?
I think overall a good balanced budget given the constraints. Fiscal consolidation with GDP growing at about 6.5% and a budget deficit of 5.9%. So that path is good. Market borrowings are a little lower than last year, which is welcome. I think last year the number was about 16 lakh crore. The big positive is a continued thrust on capex. I think a 10 lakh crore outlay will certainly keep the economy going. Of course, I think we were expecting a little more on exports, especially maybe some PLIs for employment generation sectors. We didn't see that. Hopefully we'll see that in the coming days. Expanded outlay on housing is most welcome. A bit more could have been done for MSMEs, while extending the credit guarantee scheme is welcome. But clearly that's a sector which needs more support. Other than that, the priorities of focusing on youth, agriculture, digitization, biogas, and green energy, etc., are all very welcome. And let's hope we saw a great increase in indirect taxes last year. I think Bimalji was seeing almost 25%. I think the trick will be this year to expand the direct tax base, because the share of indirect taxes as a portion of total taxes has been growing, and we've hit a double-digit number on tax to GDP, which is very welcome. I think if we can, as a chamber, work towards helping the government expand the direct tax base, which continues to be low, I think that's going to be very welcome and help in the meeting of the tax revenue targets. Other than that, I think good outlays for skilling the youth is again something we had recommended. And of course, relief to the tax-paying individual is welcome. Whether it's enough or not is something we can request Anilji to opine on. And let's hope that we get a good monsoon. Oil prices continue to be stable, and our efforts towards continuing the capex program goes on. That's it from my side. Thanks.
Thank you so much. And this was I believe, the holistic view of the budget altogether. Coming to you, Mr. Mohit Jain. the chair of MSME committee at the PhD chambers. Finance Minister has called the MSME sector as the growth engine of the Indian economy. And apart from that, she has promised that the assistance will continue to be given to this particular sector. And she told about the infusion of 9,000 crore rupees into the corpus and has reduced the cost of credit. How welcoming do you see this measure introduced by the Finance Minister and the government?
I think the 9,000 crore infusion for investments for the capital subsidies would definitely help the MSME, and the 1% subsidy she has spoken about. We'll see how the scheme is totally framed out when it comes up. But I think as MSME, we would have looked for further more support and help during this budget. And like MSME is supposed to be the growth engine, like you said. But I think something more should have been done for the MSME, because I think the expectations were much higher than what they are currently being given.
Right. And apart from that, if we talk about the various other measures which the FM has underlined in the budget, and of course, as rightly mentioned by Mr. Mehta, that instead of looking at a particular sector, it has holistically addressed the various issues or the various demands of the industries, various industries.
Yeah, especially like tourism, she has covered a lot, and I hope that directly the tourism sector, which really does need the support, after the COVID, that would definitely help the small and micro, units. If the support goes directly to them, that will definitely help. And sector-wise, yes, indirectly, there would be many MSMEs which will get support. But overall, as the complete, that was not there, what we were looking for.
Right. Okay. Mr. Manoj Gaur, who is the chairman of the Housing and Urban Affairs Development. FM's push for transport infrastructure, and apart from that, the fillip to the Prime Minister's Awas Yojana outlay, which has been enhanced by 66% to over 79,000 crore rupees. How do we perceive this move or this announcement by the Honorable Finance Minister?
First of all, definitely it's a positive budget. No negative announcements are there. Thankful to the upcoming 2024 elections. But overall, it's a good budget, and especially the emphasis on the infrastructure and the housing. PM Awas Yojana outlays increased up to 79,000 crore rupees. I think this will give a positive view in the housing sector. Though our demand was to announce this housing sector as an infrastructure status given to this sector, because the capital available at a very high rate to this sector. I think that was not addressed in this. Hopefully in the coming time, this will also be addressed. I think it's overall a good budget, and बाकी तो नीचे इंटीग्रेटेड जब पूरा बजट आएगा उसको पढ़ने के बाद we will comment.
जी. Mr. Anil Chopra. There were 5 major announcements for the middle class, which the finance minister spoke about. And before the budget also, a few days back, she said that I myself come from a middle class family. So I understand the requirements or the imperatives of what the requirement or what the expectation of a middle class family has from the budget. And among the various measures, the first measure which she spoke about, the increase of 7 lakhs tax rebate. And of course, the private sector retired people, 25 lakh rupees, the limit which she has introduced. How do we see this?
These are certainly very positive developments and announcements. I think the budget is excellent. Some things were to be expected. There is an election next year. There is governance. There is a government on the move into action. And there is a definite intent, which is being seen from time to time, to translate its intents into action. And that is the most important part. They are listening, they are taking suggestions, they are using those suggestions which they feel are in the best interest of the economy and the people. And of course, always most importantly, the common man. Increase from 5 to 7 lakhs that you touched is certainly an excellent move. Reduction in personal tax rates across the board, including the surcharge, which was very high in our case, leading to 42% plus tax on a certain level of income, which she rightly herself pointed out became one of the highest in the world. And there is even a little bit of, if I may say so, a financial movement out of the country from certain extremely wealthy people who may find it difficult. And that's not India, that's a global phenomenon. People and money and business and investments will go where it is efficient. Of course, one's love for one's country is paramount. But these things happen, they are happening. But these things will put a stop to that sort of movement. From the chamber, you will be very happy that several of our suggestions have been taken.
Right.
This is what has been happening year after year. Some of our suggestions are taken. We have been heard very positively, and we feel very grateful that this has been done. The very first point she mentioned was presumptive tax. Now, presumptive tax is you are taxed on your turnover. It is not what is your net profit. So you have a certain turnover, you have a GST return, there is a certain fixed rate of tax on that, fight, smile and go, pay the tax on your turnover. You don't even need to get a tax audit done. You only need to get it done if your income is below what would be under the presumptive tax. So we said you want simplification, you want ease of business, you want more people to comply. You want to have people joining the tax family. So please increase this presumptive tax. And they have very rightly done so, and quite liberally for now. I believe this will continue to increase in times to come. Startups, we asked for reliefs, that has been given again. Appeals, she said there will be a new category of officer who will dispose small appeals. When we all went, Bimal was there, President was there, and we made a very passionate plea to the Revenue Secretary, to the member legislation of Board of Taxes, Chairman, CPIC, and other seniors involved in legislation relating to the budget. And we spent some time talking about this. You have done faceless appeals, but orders are not coming. So there is such a huge backlog. On the one hand, let's say somebody has an unlawful demand. On the other hand, you don't dispose his appeal. On the other hand, there is a mandatory almost in the real practical situation payment of part of that demand. So then where is the relief? And please see that where is the efficiency? They heard patiently, they are doing something about it. So if this is all part of grievance redressal, so the basics that she spoke about are the basics we talk about. Simplify, rationalize, ease of business, widening of the tax net. We ourselves gave some points for widening of the tax net. If somebody has a taxable income, as far as the chamber is concerned, please comply. The chamber complies with anything which is its responsibility, so do its members. So those aspects are all in the right direction. And the relief, again, two things are being seen. If the economy grows, everybody grows. If business grows, there is opportunity for doing business for others. There is opportunity for employment. And if money is created in the hands of more and more people, such as through tax breaks, where will that money go? It goes back into the economy. If it goes back into the economy, there's more business being done, there's more GDP. That will lead to more services being needed, so more employment opportunity. So it is all in the right direction, fitting into each other. There is a grand plan. That grand plan is being executed. Now, like my colleague said, Mr. Manoj Gaur, that there is, yes, a lot which I also need to read in the small print, because there are many things she said, 1, 2, 3, 4, this is there in the next year, and that happens every year. So we need to read that. It is very difficult to comment beyond a point without that. But some things which are clearly material, which she did touch, is again trying to rationalize. Perhaps she is trying for there not to be tax on conversion of gold in the physical form to the other form. Capital gains, however, I'm not clear what the small print says, but there seems to be some restriction under certain circumstances or more on capital gains of more than 10 crores. In fact, we have been saying capital gains is not business. It is not profit. It is inflation. Why are you taxing me on my capital gains? Capital gains needs further relief. It should be completely out of the tax net. Some countries, Singapore, for instance, they don't tax capital gains. So what happened? I bought a piece of gold, its value went up. But that is also inflation. Why am I being taxed on it? It's not my business. It's not even my income from other sources that I invested to make this. Maybe my father bought, I inherited, I sold something. Where is really the tax to come into this? But instead of there being further relief, which was one possibility, perhaps subject to fine print, there is now this aspect that above a certain amount in certain situations, I don't know the exact details, this will now be taxable. Startups becoming unicorns, startup being encouraged for all their myriad benefits which are there, whether to business, whether to people, whether to technocrats, whether giving a thrust to technology, because the government is committed to technology and so are all of us. There is no future without technology. But India is leading in growth. India wants to lead in technology. And as far as all of us are concerned, 3 cheers for that. Because it is these aspects which will keep us in the forefront. We need to be world leaders in things such as technology. And their use, and startups is part of that, unicorns is part of that. We have amongst the world's best performance in those aspects. And then there is a risk factor. You go into a business like a startup, how many are actually successful? A lot of young people meet me, sir, मैं startup करना चाहता हूँ, and I tell them again and again and again, जरूर करो, मगर खुदा के लिए 10 बार सोच के करो. 1 out of 100, sometimes 1 out of 1,000 succeed. But then if that man is going to put all his sweat into it, all his learnings into it, if he's going to be such a risk taker and create something new, something which has not yet been tested much of the time, something which is into futuristic technology some of the time, then certainly he needs support, because the benefits to him and to society and the country will be extensive. And he clearly deserves any support which is coming there. Those salary and pensions, and I continue to talk positive. Yes, elections are coming, fair enough, but any benefit to a large number of people is welcome. It has always been the case of people getting salary, getting pension, senior citizens. That's सर हमें deduction नहीं मिल रही, एक standard deduction मिलती थी, वो भी खत्म हो गई. So salary and pension pay standard, and it's not just somebody with a low income, it can be a director of a company. So salary and pension pay, pension also, family also, she used the word family. Getting standard deduction again, it's a reasonable sum of money that will go to each file. And that is again something which is very welcome. And that whole community will appreciate this change which is coming. That's the one which is important for them.
Mr. Chopra, I would request you, and I'll be very happy if we can take your remarks further also, but I wanted to before that take comments.
I'll finish. So I have only one last
All right.
point. So I'm
Please.
conscious of the time. And I'm actually waiting for my president also. Leave encashment. This is again a big one, large increase for large number of people. And please see, the last increase, the sum of money that was fixed for the exemption was 2002. She announced that. We are in 2022, 20 years. So what the chamber has been saying and others have been saying is that it is not, you must index the deductions and exemptions to inflation. There is an inflation index such as for capital gains. 20 साल से कोई change नहीं हुआ. If somebody till now was only getting what he used to get in 2002, then clearly that needs change. So that change is very welcome and it's a substantial sum. Again, the salaried class from those persons who will be affected will be very happy to see that. But as far as the chamber is concerned, the public is concerned, there must be indexing of deductions and exemptions along with the cost inflation index. Because without that, it means you are reducing the deductions. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chopra. Coming to you, Mr. Bimal Jain, how do we see the new tax regime, which has been introduced by the Honorable Finance Minister today, and about the various other factors which you would talk about, particularly the GST, which all eyes were on various aspects related to GST and considering the huge demand from the people also. As far as the aviation, I'll take the other comments, but what will be your comments on this?
See, from GST perspective, you didn't heard any word from Honorable Finance Minister, right? Only customs. Rightly said so. And GST is growing by 24.8% year on year. We started with 70 lakh taxpayer and we are having today 1.4 crore taxpayer under GST regime. And this January 23 data, 1.56 lakh crore rupees, second highest ever when we got 1.68 lakh crore in April 2022. And you didn't heard anything for GST in the budget. But let me tell you, when you go inside the finance bill, you find lot many changes. GST is not exception. We have seen when GST got introduced, we were told कि budget में कुछ नहीं आएगा. पहले budget में इसके दाम बढ़ गए, इसके दाम घट गए. And we were told कि there will not be any change in GST, but I've seen all last 6 years, they bring in lot many changes in GST through finance bill. This year is also not an exception. We got clause number 128 to clause number 144 of Finance Bill 2023 contains changes in GST. Let me draw some of the important and laudable one which PSD, CCI, Indirect Tax Committee had raised before Revenue Secretary, Niti Aayog, and that is being heard. First of all, minimum threshold for launching prosecution provision. It was 1 crore. Now it is going to be increased to 2 crore rupees. Except one offense, issuance of invoice without supply of goods or services. So there are 12 offenses under section 132, which is subject to prosecution provision. And initially limit was 1 crore, which is going to be increased to 2 crore. Decriminalization. Out of 12 offenses, 3 offenses are being decriminalized. And what are those offenses? When you are restricting to perform duties by the GST officer was one of the prosecution provision, it is now being decriminalized. When deliberately you are attempting tampering of evidences, that is again being decriminalized. And when you fail to supply information to the GST department, was one of the prosecution provision got decriminalized. So these are laudable ones. Have you heard of compounding in GST, compounding of offenses in GST? We are finding many challenges in GST, right? And there's no taker of compounding in GST for the region. If you look at section 138, which is existing provision CGST Act, the existing limit is 50% to 150% of tax amount. Can you think of, if your tax amount is 100 rupees, they may levy 150 rupees for compounding that. Who will go for it? But laudable one, it is now being decreased to 25% to 100% range. So this is again good change. Some of the good change in GST, let me draw your reference. And for your understanding sake, I'm not reading the law, but practically making it applicable to all of us together. You're registered in Delhi and you got customer in US. He wanted certain goods from you, let's say 10 crore rupees. Instead of supplying goods from India, you got vendor in Korea and directly supplying from Korea to US. And there was a question whether GST leviable on this transaction, including high sea sale and inbound sale. When you sell the goods, when your goods are bonded, stored in custom bonded warehouse, 3 transactions. Whether GST leviable or not leviable. Fortunate part was that para 7 and para 8 of schedule 3 got amended from 1st February 2019. But this department, once again, they started litigating the matter for prior period, prior to 1st February 2019. Means they started issuing so-cause notice, demanding the GST from July 1, 2017 to 31st January 2019. Fortunately, it is now retrospectively made applicable from 1st July 2017. But worst part, the bad part of it, there are 2 kinds of taxpayer in every system. One is the honest one, genuine one, and one who continue to litigate the matter. The genuine and honest taxpayer may have paid the GST on this transaction, which is otherwise not chargeable to GST because of Schedule 3. He has paid the tax. But what this provision is saying, if you have paid the tax, then no refund would be granted. So it's better to litigate rather than paying the tax. So those who were litigating the matter, they are at advantage rather than those who are paying the tax. Next change, which I can tell you, which is very interesting one, we got many supplier who is supplying to us. And sometimes they don't file their GSTR 1, sometimes they don't file GSTR 3B. So we are struggling with the ITC credit, right? Because my supplier is not a tax compliant. Now time limit is being prescribed in this GST law for 37, GSTR 1, GSTR 3B, GSTR 9, which is annual return, GSTR 9C, which is reconciliation statement. And then you got TCS, GSTR 8, time limit prescribed 3 years. If you're a defaulter, you have to submit your GSTR 1, 3B, 9, 9C, and 8 within 3 years from the due date. So this will not be open window for anyone. So good one. Coming to the next two, three very interesting changes within the GST law. Recently, I got my friend here just next to me. He coming from, freight forwarder business community. From 1st October 2022, GST got levied on ocean freight and air freight. Ocean freight 5%, air freight 18%. But the problem was that if I'm a supplier, freight forwarder, registered in Delhi, and he's my client, registered in Delhi, but I'm undertaking transportation of goods to a place outside India. Then as per section 12, subsection 8 of IGST Act, place of supply would be destination of goods, which should be outside India. So even though we are within the same state, transaction looks intra-state, but because of place of supply, it would be interstate supply, IGST. But issue for my client was, if IGST levied, whether he will get credit in his Delhi registration. This was a practical problem, which now they have resolved through circular number, and they have made corresponding changes under section 12, subsection 8. Now coming one more change in GST, then I will touch base. What was my expectation, which I wanted to hear? You haven't heard all these things in Finance Minister's speech, and you're thinking there is no change in GST, right? So you have to really look at GST in the fine prints, what they bring in and what kind of provision. Another change, which is very interesting one, an important one for all of us together. See, when we look at GST law, there are a lot of provisions which we are reading it out and we are discussing throughout. And in my initial remarks, when I just came in, I was asked to speak for 2-3 minutes. I have said what I wanted, rate rationalization. I heard the Honorable Finance Minister yesterday, she talked about tax rate rationalization under Income Tax Act. Are we not looking into GST? It's a long pending demand. And see, Arun Jaitley ji in 2018, he has said that of course this multiple rate 3%, 5%, 12%, 18%, 28% going to be rationalized to 2 to 3 tier rate. No roadmap is given to us. And this is one of the subject matter litigated from both sides. Sometimes they are alleging the taxpayer that you're not picking up correct classification. It should be chargeable 18%, whereas taxpayer is saying it is 5% leviable. And it is again for the department for unwanted litigation, these classification disputes are coming in. Why can't we have roadmap prepared? Like these changes which I talked about just a while ago, was it spoken in the Finance Minister's speech today? No, but the part of Finance Bill 2023 and all last 5-6 years, we have seen those changes in GST coming in the union budget. So why can't we create some kind of, plater rate rationalization as a way forward? Second, I was talking on ITC, seamless flow of credit. That is the soul of any taxation system. We got two hands, one is supply, one is your purchase on which I'm paying the taxes. Credit should be available and it should be seamless flow of credit, am I right? And that is was spoken when GST got introduced by 101 Constitution Amendment Act. But today, credit looks like they are making sure that you should not get the credit. Am I not right in saying so? That is what happening, and we want really simplicity. GST is a good and simple tax. It cannot be bottleneck for me if I'm paying on my purchase and that is being restricted for either condition or restriction. That is not giving me real lucrative way. And third prominent one where center and state both are fighting. Petroleum product, natural gas, which is used for the manufacturing purpose. Out of GST, right? We are paying pre-GST taxes, of which no credit available. Cascading still continuing for these petroleum products. And when we talk about any roadmap for inclusion of petroleum product, center and state start fighting. No, my revenue will go away. My revenue is going this side. When things are growing, and I can tell you, simplicity comes when we reduce the tax. We include more and more product into the GST, and thereby you can done away cascading.
Mr. Jain,
just one last.
All right.
I know Smriti was looking at me and wanted me to stop here. After picking up my mic, I can't stop. It is all my inside.
But we have to really abide by the time limit of the session, Vimalji.
Smriti, Honorable Finance Minister has not spoken a single word. On GST.
I know that is the reason I wanted your reaction on this.
So you would be liking that these are the changes which was not spoken ever in the today's speech. I'm telling to all of you, my only submission is when GST growing by 25% year on year, we have moved from 70 lakh to 1.4 crore. GST is really going to be it is good for the nation. Believe me, good for the nation. What as a taxpayer we all are looking for? Simplification, digitization of procedure, and cascading should done away with. I should get seamless flow of credit. And with these roadmap, definitely I'm telling you, she should have spoken some word for GST also. And she should have given some kind of roadmap. What is the way forward in GST? Of course, GST Council going to decide, but she the chairperson of GST Council. Am I right in saying so? Thank you for giving me this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Sonali ji, I really wanted to have your comments. Achha, sure. Coming to you, Mr. Vipin Vora. GST, since Mr. Jain has, I would say that he is very disheartened with the fact that there was no mention of the GST in the budget. But at the same time, if we talk about the civil aviation industry, there was an expectation from the AFT that the prices would reduce because everyone was looking up to for the cheaper tickets also at the same time. So in that aspect, for the civil aviation sector overall, how do we see this budget?
Let me tell you, overall, if I see the budget, this seems to be okay. But as far as the civil aviation thing is concerned, I am more into cargo than in passengers, So passenger wise, I don't think there is any change which has come up. But as far as cargo is concerned, yes, there are a few things which she has mentioned in her speech. She has mentioned about, as you all know, the 45% of our GDP comes from exports. Now, the whole, logistics and infrastructure is, logistic is changing from China, it's coming to India, and we need a lot of infrastructure. Although they said that, she said that the 50 airports, aerodromes and things like that are coming up, but still the way the exports, are increasing. She gave the example of, these mobile phones. Now the exports, from 18,000 to 33,000 crores, lakh crores. Now infrastructure is required to handle those things properly. The way the government is thinking of having Make in India and big industries, they want the foreign investment to come, but the infrastructure is still lagging behind. Our airports are not sufficient to handle the cargo. There are backlogs even now. Think what is going to happen after 2 years when the production will start. The industries which are coming up, there'll be a lot of cargo lying outside. There'll be no space to take the cargo. Because what they have said is, infrastructure on SEZ policies, still we have to see what is going to happen. Now, capital investments, on the infrastructure, what is going to be the shape of those, master list of infrastructure to be announced. Now, we are still waiting in the budget, what is going to happen. Now, the main important thing is this cost of, our exports has increased because of the GST. What my friend Vimal is saying, before this October, there was no GST on the freight charges. Today, 18% is being charged on the air export and 5% on ocean freight. And still there are a lot of confusion in that. Whether, the shipments which are cleared here, they say GST is charged to be charged on the clearance charges, but on the freight, it's not charged if it's paid outside the India. So there is so much confusion even now, and we have been writing to them. There's nothing has come up, on that. Now, even this, she has mentioned that, SEZ policy, we need to, look at what the policy says, the new policies, FTWZs, and all those things, has to be seen. Now, basically, the simplified tax regime has to come, that's what our friends have told just now. Even in exports, the exporters are suffering because their monies are getting stuck. They have to find a simplified way to get their refunds. We as a freight forwarders and freight brokers are there to make sure that the goods move on time, but we need infrastructure. We need, even the airports, the cargo handling places. Today it's a monopoly of the people. Now, worldwide, the cargo is cleared outside the airports, and the airports are just used as a transit point by air freight stations and few other things. Now, in India, although there was a policy which was announced on 2014, till date, not even one has come up because of some restriction. The people at the airports, they don't want this thing to happen. So ultimately, it's hampering the exports, growth of exports. So those all things we have to see. But on the whole, like KYC and other things which she has announced, that will really help the exporters to make sure that the things move fast.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vora. Mr. Mehta, this one is the first budget in Amrit Kal, considering the 25 years of transition which we are aiming at for the next to complete the 100 years of independence. And she has also mentioned that world has recognized India as a bright star, considering the kind of scenario we faced during the COVID situation. The pandemic which arose was not only in India but everywhere in the world. The global economic slowdown which was faced by countries across the globe. At the same time, India seeing the economic growth at 7%, what the finance minister has mentioned. Where do we see India heading if we talk about the next 1 year? And of course, G20 presidency, and of course, the SCO, Shanghai Cooperation Organization summits, which India will be hosting, and various other events which are being organized under the presidency. How do you see India's economic growth in the next 1 year and the position?
No, clearly we must applaud the finance minister for maintaining fiscal discipline. I think that's very important to maintain our credit rating, right? To keep the interest rates low in the economy and helping private sector finance some of the capex. So clearly we're in a good spot because the capex momentum is, at 10 lakh crore. It's a pretty good number. It's almost 33% over last year. And, if you're able to continue to encourage private investment and the monsoon and oil are favorable, we're going to do well next year. No doubt in that. And I think, but what's also important to remember is this: out of a total expenditure of 45 lakh crore, right, 11 lakh crore is going towards interest payments, right? Now, because of the pandemic, our debt to GDP ratio has almost gone up from 60% to 85 odd percent.
Right.
While it's still not an alarm bell, it's something we should keep our eye on, because anything over 100% is a warning sign, simply put. What I saw was the disinvestment target was kept at 60,000 crores. I think we can do more than that, because last year they had budgeted, I think, almost 2 lakh crore, and the actual number was lower. It was made up by an increase in indirect tax collection. But I do feel that if we can disinvest and sell down more assets and just use that money for capex rather than market borrowing, it'll really cushion us very well for the next 3-4 years. Overall, definitely, I think the defense outlay is something she didn't spell out in the budget. I think our Secretary General is expecting about 1.2 lakh crore. I don't know what the actual number is, but that's also something which is an important metric. So yes, I think if the tax collections continue to grow, if we can continue to simplify.
Mr. Chopra, I really wanted to take one more comment from you. All right. Yeah, please. Sorry, Mr. Mehta.
Yeah, I mean, if we ease of doing business, simplification of process procedure, I think we're all fed up of getting KYCs done every year with banks at an individual level. All of that, it can be standardized. We can move to self-certification, DigiLockers, etc. All of that will just help in a big way in ease of doing business. So I think those are the non-budgetary aspects we need to keep doing after the budget to keep making life simpler for MSMEs, for individuals. And the only thing which one could have expected a little more was some relief to the MSMEs in the form of maybe interest subventions, maybe some more PLIs. But I'm sure PLIs can be taken up during the year as well.
Right. So we'll quickly head towards the closing remarks. First from Mr. Bimal Jain about the budget 2023-24.
Can I draw your attention, please? Yeah. I'm supposed to give my comment on this budget 23. Of course, this is the full last budget before general election. And to my mind, the Honorable Finance Minister has done very good work. Because she is having responsibility of getting the revenue, and then she can afford for the expenditure. And she has to contain fiscal deficit also, which she has promised that she will reduce it to 4.5% of GDP. The India growth story is really giving a platter for Honorable Finance Minister and for all of us together. We are growing by almost 7%, projected 6 to 6.8%. Even IMF has said we will grow around 6.5%. We are 5th largest economy today, and we have surpassed UK. जिसने हमारे ऊपर शासन किया था 75 साल में, हमने यूके को पीछे छोड़ दिया. Proud moment for all of us together. Proud moment for all of us. And IMF has also said we are going to be 4th largest economy in 2025 and 3rd largest economy in 2027. So this is independent view of IMF for India. So India growth story looks to me very promising one. Having said that, what are the revenue item which is in the kitty of Honorable Finance Minister? Our revenue is growing for direct tax and indirect tax. Direct tax is growing by 26% year on year, and indirect tax is growing by 25%. What we have to do and see in taxation, direct tax is a progressive tax and indirect tax is a regressive tax. I do not want to see that indirect tax is growing when we compare with the direct tax. I rather want direct tax must increase. Now, in that process, she brought a new taxation regime. There's a certain student from the colleges. Excuse me. I think you have come here to listen, right? And to get certain things. So if it is one side I'm talking about, you're not grasping, then it will not work, right? So new taxation regime was brought in 2020. And there were only 5 lakh taxpayers who had adopted new tax regime. So she was not happy about it. So this year budget, she has promised many things under new tax regime only. So your limit of 2.5 lakh increased to 3 lakh only for the new tax regime. And then up to 7 lakh rupees rebate would be there. And slab changes rates are also being prescribed. So to me looks like, and she has said, this new tax regime going to be a default scheme. You can continue with the old regime. What even I wanted from personal income tax, 80C limit, which is for old tax regime. Just look at one justification, 80C, we got so many items, PPF, mutual fund, ULIP, we got repayment of housing loan, principal repayment, tuition fees, 1.5 lakh continuing from 2014. Under capital gain rather, under capital gain, we got indexation benefit. We do indexation to arrive at the real market value as on date. So 240 was the capital indexation in 2014. And if I convert this 1,50,000 with denominator 240 with the present value of 331 as per income tax, I'm not saying from outside, I'm leaving aside inflation. It is 2,06,000 rupees minimum should be if I want to really see the figure of 1.5 lakh in 2014. So certain things, yes, we were expecting, but as I said, Honorable Finance Minister having her limitation to generate the revenue, to make the expenses. But overall, if I see the budget, it's a good budget because capital outlay 10.5 lakh crore rupees with a 33% growth. So this capital outlay will add momentum to our infrastructure, will create job, manufacturing will go up. If you look at overall budget, not only from taxation perspective, but the other pointers are very, very good. 10.5 lakh crore, but challenge is, which I saw yesterday in economic survey, they are not being able to spend the money, neither the central nor the state, to the fullest capacity. So just making budget, but unless you identify the project, unless you do the land acquisition, unless you identify where we can expense, even the state are being given interest-free loan for this capital intensive project. Things has to be, when we want to see India is growing, capital outlay must be spent for the purpose, identified purpose, so that we are growing infrastructure, we are creating job, and then manufacturing process, we are adding value to make in India. Under customs, she has done lot many changes, like to promote export, to help domestic manufacturing and value addition. She talked about mobile phone numbers, comparing 2014 to today. Lot many things he talked about, but to me, in submission, I will say it's a good budget.
Right. Mr. Vora, your closing remarks.
Let me say, on the whole, if you see the budget, seeing the tax things and other things, it's a very positive budget. There are a lot of things for individuals, taxes, infrastructure and other things. It's really looking nice. Now, only thing is we have to see the details when it comes, like he said, on the indirect taxes, what are the new things which has come, which he has not announced. Then only we'll be able to comment on that. But yes, on the export side, the way she's, put up the infrastructure things and all those things, it is quite a positive budget, according to me. Thank you.
Coming to you, Colonel Kuber, let us wrap it up with the defense sector. How has the defense sector done in the budget? And with this, ladies and gentlemen, it will be a wrap on this session.
Thank you very much. I have the last word. I'm so happy about that. So I believe defense should have the last word in this country. And after all, the Indian Armed Forces are the final instrument in wielding your power for any nation. And therefore, I think we should, it's nice of you to have given me the last word on this. So as I got the figures which have been uploaded, it is far more than what we anticipated. So I must tell you that in PhD chambers, what we've been doing over the last 2-3 years, we've been promoting the inclusion of MSMEs into the defense sector. And this we have been doing in a very aggressive manner. And if you know the number of conferences that the defense team in PhD chamber has organized, it is amazing. No other association has probably organized as many seminars that would engage the attention of the at the fundamental level, and that is the MSMEs. Now, let me give you some good figures of the budget. Let me start with the capital budget, because that's the modernization budget as we call it. And therefore, if I would see a trend which was 86,000 crores plus in 2017-18 to 1,52,000 crores 369, which was last year, we anticipated 1,65,000 crores 545, and the Honorable Finance Minister has been kind enough to come very close to that figure, and she has allocated 1,62,600 crores, which is a 10,000 crores increase over the last year. And this is also because of a lot of emergency procurements that are going on. We know the nibbling actions that our naughty neighbors do, and we are catering for all that. On the revenue side, which I'm again talking in terms of stores and equipment which are procured for spares and the ones which are to sustain. I'm not talking about the pay and allowances at all here. I'm talking only about the stores, which is what we focus, and SG is here. He stands testimony to this as to how many times we have gone to the various BRDs to actually facilitate the MSMEs. Here, last year it was 2,33,000 crores. And I'm so happy to tell all of you, and I'm very proud. In fact, we thought it will be increased to 2,45,045 crores is what we thought. And the finance minister has jumped the gun, and she has put it at 2,70,120.14 crores. It is a phenomenal increase in encouraging MRO, in encouraging spares, in encouraging manufacturing, in encouraging the manufacturing at the grassroots level. So when I come, the total modernization budget the army is standing at today, the armed forces are standing at today. If I take a summation of all this, last year it was 3,85,000 crores plus. This time it is 4,32,720.4 crores, a phenomenal increase, and I think that's very good. The army capital budget has increased to 37,000 crores 241, which is one of the highest. In fact, we never assumed it will go this, because it was in 21-22, it was 36. It dropped to 32. We have gone back to 37. We have beat that record, and this is one of the highest over there. The Navy is standing very tall at 52,804 crores, And you know, you know that we launched the INS Vikrant, and we are very aggressive as a nation. I would say aggressive in the sense aggressive in patrolling our borders, and therefore we are looking at the maritime power, and maritime power is reflected in the budget as I see it. The Air Force modernization budget has once again shot up. It is at 55,586. 55,000 crores, 586, which is again a phenomenal number. We are looking at actually indigenizing some of the aircraft components. We are looking at making aero engines. You know that we are already in the process of making engines for our UAVs, our Rustams, and there's what a lot of it is going on.
Colonel
R&D.
Kuber, I would request you to kindly wrap it up in 2 minutes.
I will want to close it with R&D, which is research and development. And that was the last point. Anyway, it was not the last point, but yes, since you want me to close it. So we are again at 12,850 crores, a phenomenal increase. We are looking at taking research and development to the industry, not keeping it as a prerogative of any one organization. And therefore, even in the last year, you see 25% of the R&D budget was to promote the private industry. Today, we have a technology development fund. Today, we have, we have the IDEX. The allocation for IDEX TDF has increased phenomenally more than 100%, which is very, very good. And that shows the spirit of the country. That shows that would give an indication to our neighbors. Don't take us too lightly. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Mehta. Any closing remarks, a sentence or two? I would really appreciate that.
No, just to add on, it will be good to do a study year on year as to how much we've indigenized, how much we spent on capex, R&D, and I think it's one of the things which is kind of stand out for this government. The way they've kind of looked at modernizing the armed forces, looked at indigenization, developing MSMEs to supply to this sector, etc. I think something we must applaud the government for. So thanks. I think we've covered a lot of things. If anybody in the audience would like to say something very quickly, briefly.
Any questions from the audience?
Or any questions?
Thank you so much, gentlemen.
We have, okay, so would you like to say that? No? Okay.
I think we have covered everything in detail and analyzed with the eminent panel of guests here.
And I think we'll have more detailed sessions post budget and
Absolutely.
Direct tax committee once the fine print comes out. So we'd request everybody to join in those sessions later. And again, thanks for coming today and joining us in the budget.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you so much, everyone here. And I would request you all to kindly join us for lunch outside. Thank you once again.